Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day. Mr. Prince.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's a privilege and an honor.
Listen, man, you command a tremendous amount of respect. The more people I talk to you, the more the respect grows. More people I talk about you, rather. It's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to be with you.
Likewise, bro.
Josh Dubin loves you, too.
Oh, yeah, the feeling is mutual.
Yeah, I love that dude.
Yeah, me too.
He's a good man, and the stuff that he does on the side, you know, outside of boxing, and the stuff that he does with the Innocence Project is really amazing.
Yeah, he's an awesome friend to have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of shit here, man. We got your loyalty brand. You've got champagne. You've got wine. You've got, what's this?
That's the Merlot.
This is Merlot, and you have a Cabernet as well.
And Rosé.
I love a man that's involved in a lot of different things.
Well, I'm just trying to diversify my portfolio.
But that's always been the case with you, right?
Yeah, pretty much so.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
You are responsible for a tremendous amount of the music that I listened to, especially when I was a young man. Like, you put together the Ghetto Boys. Willie D was on here, and he explained the whole story to us, that you're the one who talked him into being into the Ghetto Boys. Like, he was like, I want to be on my own. He did it as a favor to you.
Yeah, that's a true story. I actually had got rid of the other set of Ghetto Boys because they felt like I was too deep and they couldn't relate to some of the subject matters I wanted them to write to. And,
like, what kind of subject matter?
Well, just real life situations, you know what I mean? Like real street things that I was living. And they were spitting more Tonka Toy type of raps, you know. They was following the trend of the East Coast at the time, and I realized that we're from the South and we just had different stories.
Like, what was the stories of the East Coast? Like, what was the difference?
Well, more commercial. You know, back then the East Coast was more commercial. This was the time when Run DMC, LL Cool J, you know, the hardcore rap hadn't hit the scene yet. So down south, we were considered rebellious at the time because we came with a different flavor. You know, we came with ghetto stories. That's one of the reasons I named the group the Ghetto Boys, because I knew it was ghettos all around the world that had a voice, and we became their voice.
Well, it was also, there were songs that they were very unconventional, like Mind's Playing Tricks on Me. Like, that's an unconventional song, like, and it shows like a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, talking about the pressure of that life really fucking you up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There was a lot of that in the Ghetto Boys.
Yeah.
There was a lot of layers to it. If you looked at it on the surface, you would think just gangster rap, but there was a lot of thinking behind that music.
Oh, most definitely. And that was part of what we done together. We brainstormed together because we wanted to make sure we tapped into, you know, everybody that didn't have a voice. You know, a lot of the things, such as the Mind Playing Tricks song, for example, you know, it was a lot of individuals that was like numb to that lifestyle of what would actually take place of inner city kids. And we were able to make that like real visual.
It's fascinating to me, all the different things that you've touched, you know, that you've gotten into. Like, first of all, how did you get started in the rap game? Like, what got you into?
I got in the rap game because of my brother. His name was Sir Rap-A-Lot. So I actually named the company after him. And I was encouraged to do it because, you know, he was a rapper. At the time, you know, I was hustling a different way, and I didn't want my brother in the streets. So I'm like, you go in the studio, I'm going to support you in the rap world. But ultimately, my brother decided not to stay in the rap game and went got him like 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so many stories like that, right? Like, dudes had one foot in and one foot out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the rap game is inextricably tied to people that are in that world, right? You can't fake it in the rap game. It's one of the rare genres of music that has so many people that are both in and out of that world.
Yeah, a lot of people fake it to a certain extent, because they tell stories of what they observed or what they saw. A lot of individuals don't hadn't actually lived the rap that they rap about, but they witnessed it from some perspective, so it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's maybe the only music genre that is so connected to crime. Like, if you really stop and think about it, crime and poverty is such an immense part of the rap world.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a real reflection of what goes on in the world we come from.
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting things about it. Like when rap music became really popular, one of the things I was saying to Willie when Willie D was here, I was like, you're a pioneer of a new art form that came about. Like when the Ghetto Boys came about, which was like late 80s, is that what it was?
Yes.
When the Ghetto Boys emerged, we had only been looking at hip hop for a decade, right? It had only been around for 10 years. I'm like, you were at the ground floor of what is now one of the biggest genres in all of music. And it was one of the first genres that showed that life and showed the life of these inner city hustlers that were trying to get out and trying to do better for themselves. And in the case of the Ghetto Boys, show the pros and the cons and show the psychological effects of that life.
No, a true story. And one of the things we done, like on the East Coast and the West Coast, they had access to a lot of power where the major record labels were concerned. Down in Houston in the South period, we had no access to any of that kind of power. So we was left to like figure it out and do it on our own. So when I laid the foundation in Houston, I basically learned from trial and error. And I had to figure it out, and I did, and we laid a foundation that's relevant today.
So you got into it to help your brother, and then how did you get a part of the Ghetto Boys? How did that get going?
Well, I researched Houston inside out. I went to like every area in Houston and kind of, just tapped into all the artists. And I ran into Scarface one day. I stepped out of a club and he was playing his music for a DJ by the name of Steve Funyeh. And I overheard it and I was sold from what I overheard. And I basically took Scarface with me that night. We went to breakfast and, I kind of convinced him that I had a group named the Ghetto Boys that I wanted him to be a part of. And the same thing happened with Willie D. My barber, I think, was telling me about Willie D. We had the same barber in Fifth Ward, and I got with him and basically told him the same story. And then there was Bushwick, and Bushwick, was around before either of those guys were around. But I just shared my vision with them. It was important that they embrace my vision because I just got rid of a group of guys that wasn't feeling me. They told me I was too deep. So after that, I just made it my priority to pick these guys up every day. I drove and picked them up every day to make sure they showed up in the studio.
So whatever happened with the guys who told you were too deep? Did they ever call you back and go, "Oh, we fucked up"?
Well, I'm thankful for two of those guys because, I tell this story all the time. These two guys I made a deal with them. If they go to school, I would support them in rap. And they went to school and they would go to my grandmother's house after school every day. And after my brother had left, I kind of lost interest in the music game. And she called me one day and she said, "James, you need to keep your word. These guys are going to school. They come here every day practicing. And, I tell everybody that's how I got blessed beyond my expectations by keeping my word."
Keeping your word is a theme that you discuss very often. Respect and keeping your word.
True.
How did this evolve for you as a man? Like when did this become of extreme importance in your life?
I think it began with my mother, my father. I believe more is caught than taught. So I was observing the things of substance, such as respect and things like that. They put it in me. So, I tell everybody it's kind of in my DNA to a certain extent.
I like that phrase. More
Yeah.
is caught than taught.
Yeah,
That's true.
real true.
Yeah, I think about that around my own kids.
Oh, yeah, they watching.
They observe.
Yeah.
And if you slip, like if I'm slipping, my kids will let me know.
Oh, yeah.
They let me know, and you're like, oh Jesus, you're paying attention.
Oh, yeah. your other words, your lips gonna have to match your actions.
Yes. Yeah. When children think you're a hypocrite, those are rough kids to raise because they don't have any respect for you.
True.
Yeah. So you start out with, you had Willie D, you had Scarface, you had Bushwick Bill, and these guys didn't necessarily know each other. Like Willie knew Bushwick from the clubs, but he wasn't tight with him, right?
Yeah, it wasn't really even. He didn't really even know him. I think they had a run-in, somewhat of a confrontation in the club, but they didn't really know each other than Will, I think, drop kicking Bushwick.
That sounds like Willie.
Yeah.
And how difficult was it to get them together and get them to coordinate and get the music to go well?
It was somewhat difficult because everybody was solo artists and everybody wanted to do their own thing. And my thing was to them, okay, let's unite our power. Let's unite our power together and we become a stronger force than being separate. And, let's do this my way, and after this we'll do solos. So I think that made sense to him.
Well, the way Willie talks about you, when Willie was like, I'm going to be on my own, but Jay Prince asked me to do it, so I said, all right. Like, literally that. Like, that's rare. When a guy like Willie D is like, okay, he respects you so much, he's willing to do that for you when he wanted to be a solo artist.
Yeah, that's true. And Scarface as well. But, it always been a mutual respect where we all was concerned. And, it made sense. Let's unite the power. That helped. It was that mentality that opened the doors for the whole Houston. Like a lot of artists today try and, separate their powers. They don't understand the unity of the power is what opened the door for the city.
How did you figure that out early on?
I just figured it out from being a football player, a baseball player, a team player. It's certain ingredients that just work, together versus being separate. Unlike boxing, boxing, you're in the ring by yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing you've been involved in, too, which is amazing. You've been involved with some of the greatest fighters of all time, Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward. I mean, how did you transfer from, well, you started off, you owned like a car dealership, right?
Yeah.
Was that your first big business?
Pretty much so. I started off at a car dealership. All my life I had this love for cars. And
Me too.
And my cousin, by the name of Eric Blakely, he used to put model cars together, all on his dresser. And I didn't have any model cars. I couldn't really afford model cars, but I would look at those cars and be like, oh, I'm going to have a car like that one day. I'm going to have a car like, envision myself in them cars. And I ended up purchasing every car that I dreamt of being in.
Did you have like a checklist?
Yeah.
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 And so when you opened up this car dealership, did you do that with that end goal in mind, or did you just do it as a business?
I done it as a business. That was business. The ownership was personal. I done it as a business because I had relationships with all the athletes, with all the D-boys, all the hustlers in the streets. So I'm like, I could make some money in the car salesman business. And my son mother, Jazz, his mother, Carla, her father was a car dealer. So everything just kind of connected. And I'm like, okay.
And so did you use that to, like, as a springboard to get into the rap game?
Yeah, most definitely. I became the number one car seller, profit-wise, on a street called Shepherd Drive in Houston, Texas in 1 year. You know what I mean? And I couldn't believe it. We all had the same accountant. And the accountant, doing taxi, and she came to me. She's like, you made the biggest profit out of everybody on the. I said, well, how did you know that? How do you know that? She said, because I'm the accountant. I'm like, wow, are you serious? She's like, yeah, you made the biggest profit. So, that was inspiring.
And this was just because of your relationships with all these other people.
Yeah.
That they wanted to do business with you.
Well, I say relationships and my work ethic, because I got a relentless work ethic. Yeah.
So how do you get into boxing from there? You get into the rap game was the Ghetto Boys your first band?
Yeah, pretty much so. The Ghetto Boys were my first group. When boxing came along, boxing was my first love. I got distracted by the music game by boxing because of the music game. I always wanted to be a boxer, but it wasn't any gyms in Fifth Ward, so I always said to myself, if I ever make it, I want to build a boxing gym, a recreation center in my hood. And that's what I done. And shortly after I done that, I had an opportunity to go in the gym, and I started watching the amateurs. And I just kind of fell in love with boxing all over again, and which ultimately led me, I prayed for a champion. Everything I tried to accomplish in life, I always exercised prayer. It worked for me. So I prayed for a champion, and I set up a meeting with Mike Tyson in Las Vegas, and I went to Las Vegas.
What year is this?
This had to be 99 or 2000. So, I knew a friend that knew Mike, and Mike, accepted the invitation because he was familiar with my movement where Rap-A-Lot was concerned. And I flew out there with my focus on Mike, and man, I walked into him sparring, and I was like, I was on cloud nine because I had never saw him, in person sparring. It was always at a fight. And I walked in, and he was throwing leather with another heavyweight, and I was like starstruck. And in the midst of watching this sparring, Floyd Mayweather came in the gym. And Floyd, I didn't know who he was. He kept coming to me, yo, Jay, man, I know about your group. He was calling groups out. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, bro. I'm zeroing back in on Mike. Boom, boom, boom. Floyd come over again. Yo, Jay. Man, I know about this group here, man. And Jay, if you want to do something later on, this is my number. I'll come pick you up. I'm like, all right, brother. Okay. Focus on Mike. I don't know who Floyd is, right? So afterwards, me and Mike go to his house to have the meeting that I came to have because my objective was to become his manager, to be on his management team. And he and I met for an hour. He got his ex-wife on the phone, and, I was pretty much convinced I was on the team after the meeting and everything took place. And, hung with him all night. The next day, I tried to reach Mike, and I couldn't reach Mike. And I was left with Floyd number, and I asked my friend, I said, who number is this number right here? He said, oh, that's Floyd Mayweather, the 130-pound champion. So, bam, a red light went off in my head because I prayed for a champion. Long story short, me and Floyd was in business together less than a week.
That's crazy.
I was his manager.
You didn't even know who he was?
I didn't know. No idea.
That was when he was Pretty Boy Floyd.
Yeah.
That was before Money Mayweather.
Exactly.
Yeah. He had a totally different style back then, too. He was much more aggressive. Went for the knockout more.
Yeah, well, I think he used his legs a lot more then. But if he saw the opportunity, he definitely went in for the kill. But, his whole image was different before I came about.
Well, he had a lot of hand problems, right? Like, he's had several hand breaks.
Yeah, well, I don't know about a break, but I know we eventually had to get a specialist to wrap his hands because, he would hurt him a lot.
Yeah. And do you think that affected his style? Is that like, because he developed a very defensive style as he got older?
I think that's a part of confidence. I think that's a part of evolving as a fighter. In the beginning, I think Floyd used his legs much more. Mm-hmm. But as he evolved with experience, he got comfortable, with
shoulder
the defense.
roll and defense.
Yeah.
Greatest defense of all time.
Oh, man.
Of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
I had my friend Andrew Schultz on here yesterday. We were talking about it. We're like, he might have got hit hard 4 times in his career, which is insane. Yeah. 50-0, and got tagged 4 times, which is unthinkable.
No, he's amazing, but his work ethic is amazing. You know, the guy got to work. You know, I've had opportunity to like witness a lot of fighters' work ethic. Andre Ward's and Floyd Mayweather work ethic is unlike any fight I ever saw.
Yeah, you don't get there without it.
Exactly.
Because there's so many talented people. There's so many athletic people. There's so many fierce dudes. But to be a champion,
Yeah.
you need everything. You need gifts. You need athletic gifts. You need a sharp mind. You need a passion for the technical aspects of the game. But you got to have that ethic. If you don't have that work ethic, you never keep it going. You always fall short of your expectations. And without naming any names, we all know those champions that could have been great, but they got fat in between camps and they just never trained as hard as they should have. And I mean, some of the all-time greats suffered from it, like Roberto Duran after he beat Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah.
And Sugar Ray knew it, capitalized on it, and forced a quick rematch when he knew that Duran was fat. Duran was partying and drinking, and a guy like Floyd Mayweather never did that. Never got out of shape.
Man, he would, you know, Floyd was the type of fighter that would party with everybody, but no drinking, no smoking. He'd sit back and watch and observe the whole movement.
I remember watching a video of him leaving a club in Vegas. It showed him at the club, hanging out with everybody, leaving the club at 2 a.m. running.
Oh, yeah. We used to
With
do
his
that all
pants
the
on.
time.
Yeah. Regular pants on.
We would watch fights together, and right after the fight, he was ready to run. Yo, Jay, ain't nobody gonna catch me slipping. The only way they can beat you is catch you out of shape. They ain't gonna catch me slipping. Take off running down the strip.
It's amazing. And having his brother, or having his Uncle Roger, and having his father, you know, 2 world-class fighters, and having grown up seeing these guys, seeing his uncle, when Roger Mayweather was a champion, he had a vicious style. He was, you know, his right hand was a thing of beauty. I mean, people forgot. Like, I was watching some Roger Mayweather fights the other day, and to have his father, a guy who, you know, gave Sugar Ray Leonard a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
There's so much talent, there's so much knowledge and understanding of boxing in that family, to grow up with that and to have that mindset like Floyd has, where he's observing and watching everything. That dude just absorbed everything.
Oh, yeah. And not only watching, he had to spar with Roger. So you talking about, you know, having to learn how to protect yourself against the best as a kid. So, you know, he had access to a lot of power, and evidently, you know, there's no doubt about it, it benefited him in a major way.
It's just amazing when you see that consistent formula of work ethic. That work ethic is, there's no getting around it. Everyone who gets great at everything and maintains that greatness has to have that work ethic.
Yeah. No, that's true. Even Michael Jordan explained, you know, how he exercised his work ethic. You know, I tell a lot of people your work ethic, you know, has to match your talent.
Oh, Jamie brought over some glasses. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Let's try some of this wine out, sir.
Loyalty. All right.
All right. Are you a Merlot man or a Cabernet man?
Well, I'm both of them.
What do you prefer? It's up to you.
Let's try some Cab.
All right. Which one is this one?
That's Merlot.
This is the Merlot. All right. Where are you growing this stuff?
In Paris, in France.
Really?
You know, yeah, I'm getting them good grapes.
You got a relationship with people in Paris, too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I even have a heavyweight by the name of Tony Yoka, the 2016 gold medalist. It's from Paris.
Really?
Yeah, that's my fight as well.
Is he training here in America or is he training in France?
Both. Yeah, he come and go.
How does that work now with COVID? Is he stuck over there?
Yeah, as of now, he been over in Paris for the last few months. So I think he'll be back in February or March. Yeah.
The boxing business is a crazy business because boxers are crazy. Like there's no way, you know, you got all the dedication and all the, you know, hard work and intelligence and ring IQ, but you also have crazy people.
Yeah, but it's no worse or no crazier than the music industry.
Right, so you're prepared for it.
Yeah, I've been prepared, and there are 2 cutthroat businesses.
Cheers, sir.
Health, wealth, and love.
Health, wealth, and love.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Nice. Smooth. Right?
Yeah, I'm a fan of wine. I don't know too much about it, but that's
Yeah.
very smooth.
Yeah.
What part of France is this grown?
Oh man, I don't know exactly the part, but it's in France, and I went through a lot of grapes to come up with this blend. It's
So you
it's
personally
proper.
involved in selecting everything as well?
Oh yeah.
Do you know a lot about wine? Do you have a background in wine? Or do you just know what you like?
Well, let me tell you the story how I got in the wine business. You're not from Texas, but those that are from Texas remember this doctor definitely in Houston by the name of Dr. Red Duke. He was a surgeon in Houston. And I heard him speak about the health benefits where wine was concerned one day. And, he was talking about the how wine is good for your heart, your blood, the antioxidants, all of these things. And I became, kind of sold where wine was concerned. And during my wine and downtime, I started sipping a little bit. And ultimately, that led me to Napa Valley, where I was able to go to quite a few vineyards. I was actually negotiating on purchasing a vineyard. So I got an opportunity to view things from the business perspective. And that kind of led me to where I'm at today.
That's a serious baller move when you own a vineyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I don't trust the governor of California.
Mm.
He owns a vineyard. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You're supposed to be serving the people. You're not supposed to be balling.
Yeah.
When you own a vineyard, you're a baller.
Yeah.
That's a baller move. You're out there sipping, cheers, with
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Someone's bringing over hors d'oeuvres.
Right. You can only imagine they mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely mixing up. That's some gangster shit. You're owning a vineyard. That's you can't trust a politician with a vineyard, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
I don't trust them without vineyards. So
exactly. But with a vineyard,
Yeah.
there's something about owning a vineyard.
yeah, that's icing on the cake.
It's a status symbol. It's a beautiful status symbol. My good friend Maynard, he's the lead singer of the band Tool.
Yeah.
He's got Caduceus Vineyards. He owns his own vineyard in Arizona.
Beautiful.
And there's something about the creation of wine. It's a different kind of artistic pursuit. It's an art that your taste buds take in and appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I've
agree.
developed a deep respect for wine. I don't know much about it, really, unfortunately. I don't have a lot of time to really learn about wine, but
Yeah.
I know good wine, and this is very good.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
delicious.
Toast to loyalty. Well, you
loyalty.
you just said a mouthful though. The taste buds is the key where it's concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an art form for your taste. When you get a good glass of wine and you take that in, you're like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's smooth. This is like a great wine with a steak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when you met Floyd, he was the 130-pound champion.
Mm-hmm.
And did you just you immediately started working with him?
Yeah, but it was a process, and it wasn't easy because I came into a situation where his father and his uncle was his manager, and I wasn't embraced, with love, because they kind of felt like I was imposing on a situation. He had a $12 million contract on the table at the time I came in that everybody wanted him to sign. And Floyd called the contract a slave contract before I came, but they blamed me for him calling the contract a slave contract. So,
What was the provisions in the contract that he didn't like?
well, he just thought 12 million wasn't enough. You know what I mean? And ultimately I had to go in and do some damage control. And one of the things that I told him when I met him, I said, if I can't make this better, I don't want to eat off of your 12 million that already been offered to you. So I had opportunity to have a meeting with Seth Abraham, at the time was the president of HBO. And I pretty much just asked the guy, how could we get around this $12 million contract? How can I make this a bigger contract? And at the time, he told me about the fighter named Diego Corrales. He was like, you know, if you all would be willing to fight Diego Corrales, then this could jump up to 35 million or so if y'all was able to beat Diego Corrales. And you know, that was interesting to me. You know, I went home and done some due diligence on Diego Corrales at the time, and at that particular time, Diego had jumped on his ex-wife and kind of beat her up. He had charges, you know, kind of done her pretty bad, bad to the extent where he was facing jail time. And I saw that, and I went back to Floyd. I said, Floyd, I said, it's a perfect time to fight Diego Corrales. I said, I even have a marketing tool. We can whoop him for every battered woman in the United States of America. So he heard me out, but he wasn't embracing that. No, Jay. It ain't time to do that right now. No.
So he didn't want to fight Diego because of Diego's skill set?
Well, you know, I don't want to say Floyd was scared, but at the time, you know, everybody thought Diego could beat Floyd. He was like 30-0 with 29 knockouts.
Diego was a wild man.
Yeah, Diego was a knockout artist. And he just felt like it wasn't the time. I talked to him for like 4 hours and couldn't convince him. So I decided to go home. And I went home about 6 in the morning, and I woke up about 11 in the morning with a message from him. Yo, Jay, I hired you, you know, as my manager. And if you think I should fight him, I'll fight him. So it was then where, you know, I was celebrating. 'Cause I'm like, whoa, we finna get Diego. So I called the people at HBO, and they told me they didn't have a date. They wouldn't have a date to next year or something like that. And it was then I decided to use some of my record label talents. You know, I had to build my record company without having video, without having radio, you know, just pulling publicity stunts. So I told Floyd, I said, here's what we're going to do. Lennox Lewis and David Tour was fighting at the Mandalay Bay. I say, during the press conference, I'm hearing Diego's supposed to come to that fight. I say, during the press conference, we're going to surround Diego. I'm going to have the homies to surround Diego. And I want you to come and just push him, and we're going to stop the fight, right? But it ain't going to be no free fight, but you go and get your push in on him. We're going to stop it. We're going to steal the show. That was my objective. And that came to fruition. You know, we went and stole the show at the press conference. That was Saturday night. Sunday, we was on the front page of the Las Vegas Time. And, you know, Monday or Tuesday, I called them, and they said, oh, we got a date for you. So the rest
I love that you're telling me this because I always wonder. Yeah. I always wonder when I see those kind of altercations, how many of those are coordinated by a wise man who understands publicity?
Quite a few, I would say.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? You know, it's marketing. Yeah. Which, you know, brings me to one thing. One of the things that's going on right now with Floyd is he's going to fight Logan Paul, who's this YouTube star, which is, it's so crazy that a dude who is a YouTube star, who's a good athlete, he's you know, he's had a couple of boxing matches and was a very good wrestler.
Yeah.
He's going to box the greatest boxer, arguably, of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to look at accomplishments, Floyd Mayweather is in the argument as the greatest of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Boxing is a sport of being hit, or hitting rather, and not being hit.
Exactly.
Floyd is the very best ever at that. No one's ever stopped him. No one's ever even come close. I mean, it's amazing. What he's done is amazing. And a lot of people say, oh, he waited until Manny Pacquiao was past his prime before he fought him. Well, that's a smart thing to do if you want to stay 50-0. I mean, if you look at his career, he fought all the great fighters, but he did it on his terms. When he fought Canelo, made Canelo get down like, what was it, like 152, I think it was?
Yeah.
Like, every move he does is perfectly calculated.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to, you know, you just can't make excuses where Floyd talent is concerned. He one of the best I ever saw do it.
Undeniable. No one, whatever your opinion of him is, undeniable how talented he is. Undeniable.
No, I mean, he went in and demolished Diego Corrales.
Yes.
But I fell in love with Diego Corrales' heart afterwards. So Diego ended up going to jail and doing like a a year or two prison time, and I went in prison and signed Diego Corrales. You know, I signed him in
Did
jail.
you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Wow.
got the blessings from Floyd. I said, Floyd, you have a problem with me working with Diego? He like, no, he good, James. Nobody, just because I done him like that don't mean nobody else could do him like that. So,
What was that one wild fight he had where he came close to getting stopped and he stopped the dude? It was,
oh,
It was
yeah.
one of the fights that made him.
Oh,
Do you remember
man.
who his opponent was?
That was, oh boy, that's the guy that they thought beat Floyd. You know, everybody say he beat Floyd the first fight. Floyd fought him, Castillo.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Castillo. You know, they claim Castillo beat Floyd the first time, and Floyd fought him again and demolished him.
Yeah.
But that was the best fight I ever saw in my life
What
with
a
him
fight.
and Diego.
What a fight. Crazy. Crazy.
And I
for
tell you
Diego to
what
come
was
back.
Yeah, I tell you what was really strange about that. So a couple years after that, on the same day, Diego got killed almost around the same time. You know, right on the next street behind my Las Vegas place. And I was called, and you know, his wife was like, somebody say Diego had a motorcycle accident. So I rushed on Fort Apache, and there Diego was on the same exact day, you know, of his biggest victory. A couple years later, the same day. Yeah.
That was a bummer when he died because
Yeah.
there's a lot of those dudes like that are just wild dudes, and you can't stop them from being wild.
Yeah.
To have a career like he had, to make the kind of money that he had, and still be just going crazy on motorcycles.
Yeah.
Like what makes them great sometimes does them in is
Yeah.
that heart, that courage, and the willingness to face fear.
Yeah.
And some guys get addicted to that. They just they get addicted to that feeling of just you know it's dangerous. You know you shouldn't be doing it, and you can't help yourself. You gun it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something about the motorcycles that make you want to gun them.
Oh, they're so thrilling. They're
High
too
of
thrilling.
that speed, you know. I have to watch myself on them bikes. I'm like, man,
Do you still ride?
not as much as I used to, but I like the Harleys, you know.
Yeah, that's a better move.
Yeah.
Slower, more controlled.
That's what I was trying to get Diego on, but he told me that's an old man bike.
Well, it's got a point. I came real close to getting my motorcycle license, but when I was going through the whole thing and going through classes, and 3 people I know, one person saw someone get hit, and 2 people I know crashed. One crashed and really fucked up his shoulder. Another one got hit by a car. Some
Yeah.
old man ran a light and T-boned him and snapped his leg in half. And I was like, this is just too much.
Yeah, I kind of witnessed like 3 or 4 accidents in 1 year that made me decide to slow down on the riding side.
I was passing on the highway and I saw this dude laying down. They had a blanket over him.
Yeah.
And his bike is crashed and he's laying down. He's got a blanket over him, but you can see like his chest, his head, he's still alive. And he
Yeah.
was just screaming in agony. And I don't know what the fuck was going on under the blanket, but they wanted to
Yeah.
cover it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. It's a terrible way to go. But when you're on it, it just seems like so much fun.
Yeah, it's a high.
Yeah.
You know, it's a high of freedom and, you know, the wind and everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like flying like a bird,
Yeah.
you know. I just went there for a minute.
I know. So many fighters love them, And again, it's the thing. It's like what attracts them to fighting in the first place is they're the type of people that face fear. They enjoy overcoming fear. They enjoy the thrill.
Right.
Floyd never fucked with bikes though, did he?
Nah.
Too smart.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he never done
Too
that.
smart.
Yeah.
The Diego Corrales fight with Floyd was a defining fight. But one of the things that when people point to Floyd, I say look at the Maidana fights because Maidana gave him some difficulty in the first fight, but in the second fight, Floyd boxed his ears off.
Yeah.
Floyd put on a clinic in that second fight, and that shows you a guy who went back, looked at the fight, didn't enjoy his performance, it was too close, and decided, I'm going to fuck this dude up in this rematch, and I'm going to do everything right this time.
If you observe Floyd real closely, normally the second half of all his fights, he cracked the code where a fighter is concerned. No matter how close it was.
Yep.
The second half, he cracks that code, and going into that second fight, he gonna figure out Same way Andre Ward.
Yep.
You know, he was the same way.
Like Kovalev, right?
Exactly.
The first fight's close. The second fight's wasn't close at all.
No.
The crazy thing about Andre Ward, and I've had Andre Ward on the podcast before, is that Andre fought most of his career with one arm.
Yeah.
And people didn't even know.
No.
They had no idea. He literally didn't have a right arm.
That's true.
He fucked everybody up with a left hand. It's
true.
crazy.
That's
Guys
true.
like Carl Froch
Yeah.
and even Kovalev in the first fight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what he accomplished.
Yeah. Big ups to Andre Ward. He just got.
He's amazing.
You know, they just injected him to the Hall of Fame. So,
Did they?
Yeah.
He's a unique human being.
He is.
Very unique, because when Canelo knocked out Kovalev, there was a lot of talk for, Andre is still young. He's still in his prime as a human being. He could absolutely fight right now if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But he decided that he would be better serving boxing as a commentator and as a man with perfect faculties intact.
Yeah.
Retiring undefeated as a champion, 2-division champion, gold medalist in the Olympics. Perfect.
Yeah.
No problems.
Yeah.
When you look at him and when you hear him talk, there's no cognitive decline. He's smooth. He's articulate. He's an outstanding gentleman.
Yeah.
Like, as a human being, he's a very religious, devoutly religious person.
Yeah.
He's a stunning human being, man.
He is.
He really is.
No, in real life. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
talking about from a close up.
Yeah.
You know, he the same way, inside and outside the ring. He actually, it was a lot of millions he walked away from.
A lot of millions. A lot.
You know what I mean?
Because he was the guy that made the most sense. If Canelo is going to have a light heavyweight super fight, he's not really a light heavyweight. Everybody knows that. He stepped up and fought Kovalev, but Kovalev was kind of on the decline, and he fucked him up and stopped him.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to have a guy who's like the perfect foil for Canelo at light heavyweight, it's Andre Ward.
Most definitely.
It's Andre Ward. I mean, that would have been amazing. If they were in their prime, my God, what a fight that would have been.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Who you like in that fight?
I would never bet against Andre Ward. I just wouldn't bet against him. I just wouldn't bet against him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I bet against Canelo right now, though. I'll tell you.
Oh, he's a beast.
Listen, I would watch that fight like this.
Yeah. No, he's a beast. He's a
Canelo is a different human being post-Floyd.
beast. Yeah.
Have you watched the Danny Jacobs fight? Danny Jacobs is throwing missiles at his head. And he's just standing in there moving and beautiful head movement. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Which, he had a little bit of that early in his career, but post-Floyd, his defense just rose considerably. Once he realized, like, that dude was in front of me and I couldn't do shit. Like, that's that rub that you get when you fight a real world champion. Not a world champion, but a greatest ever world champion. When you realize, like, wow, there's fucking levels to this thing.
Yeah. Make you better.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it definitely made Canelo better.
It did.
I mean, Canelo was going to get better no matter what, but there's no question that post-Floyd, it's a different Canelo.
Yeah. No, I just hope Floyd leave him alone and don't fight him at this point.
He's huge now. He's so big. He's so big.
Yeah, Floyd's smart. He would never. He wouldn't do that.
I mean, he's fighting at 175, And I think this weekend's fight is 168, though, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The gentleman who's fighting Callum is like, he's like 6'4". Pull up the video of Canelo Alvarez. There's a face-off between Canelo Alvarez and this weekend's opponent. It's crazy how tall this dude is. Like, it's an interesting fight just based on just the physical aspects of it.
Yeah, that guy's a quality fighter too.
Yes.
It's not gonna be easy for him. I don't believe.
No. And he's a dude that's a natural 168. And you look at Canelo having started his career as a junior middleweight. Look at this. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at Callum Smith. Look how big he is. That's crazy.
If he know how to use that reach properly, it can be a long night.
Well, Canelo has that nasty left hook. That left hook to the body and tight is.
Yeah.
That's a big gentleman.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's a very, very good fighter. But that's what I admire about Canelo is that that's what he's looking to fight. He's looking to fight the guys like Danny Jacobs, the guys like Callum Smith, the guys like Sergey Kovalev. I mean, he's looking to fight the best fights that are available for him right now.
Yeah, that's true.
He's something special right now. But I think he became something special Like really, a lot of it was because of that Floyd fight. Because Floyd shut him down.
Yeah.
If you look at Canelo in every other fight, he's a wrecking machine. And that fight, he looked like a guy was just puzzled.
Yeah, he was puzzled.
Yeah.
Confused. He didn't know what to do.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing when people achieve a level of proficiency that's so powerful that a world champion is standing in front of them and go, fuck, man, I got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True statement. There's levels to it, man. And I witnessed Floyd do that over and over to fighters that thought they were the best. And even in sparring, they're like, whoa.
Do you think it's crazy now that he's fighting YouTube stars and shit, though? I mean, he's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's brilliant in that regard, like the Conor McGregor fight.
Yeah. I mean, I actually kind of like him not, fighting a lot of these young guys. You know what I mean? I think it's good business moves, and, he's older than this guy, and he's smaller than that guy. A lot smaller.
That dude's big.
I think the scale balance off somewhat. The guy younger, and he's bigger, so.
He's huge.
Yeah.
This dude's a 200-pound guy.
A heavyweight.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that he's doing this is crazy. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's doing this in Japan. Japan doesn't give a fuck. Did you see that fight that he fought with Tenshin Nazukawa?
Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
that guy Tenshin is a badass kickboxer, like a really good kickboxer. But he's 126 pounds. He's a tiny little dude. And the Japanese people, they love freak shows. Yeah. They put on some wild during the mixed martial arts heyday of Japan. They put on some wild fights, man. They had like 300-pound dudes fight 100-pound dudes. Wow. They didn't give a fuck. They're like, let's make some crazy shit happen.
Yeah, anything goes.
They really did. They had this guy Minotauro Nogueira, who was at the time the heavyweight champion of Pride, and he was like a regular size heavyweight, like maybe 240 pounds, and he fought Bob Sapp, who was 375 pounds with abs. Wow. Just chock full of Mexican supplements, just smashing people. Yeah. And they had this crazy freak fight, and they did a lot of that in Japan. Japan enjoys watching these people fight that are mismatched size-wise. They enjoy that for whatever reason. So they enjoyed seeing Tenshin go over there and fight Floyd in a boxing match, where he's not really a boxer, he's a kickboxer. And, to fight the best ever when he's 20, 30 pounds heavier than you. It's just ridiculous.
Well, we saw what happened.
Yeah. Well, Floyd looked like he didn't even train for that fight.
No, you didn't have to. The guy is a genius at what he does, and he knew just what to do. Just let me walk him down.
Well, it was funny when you see him smiling. When you see him smiling at him and walking forward. Yeah. It's like an execution.
Yeah.
Well, Floyd he's brilliant at that, like maximizing his profits in his later years. I mean, that fight was an exhibition, but the Conor McGregor fight was a legitimate fight. Yeah, which is crazy. A guy with 0 professional fights ever steps in there against a guy who was 49-0 at the time. Yeah.
They say, show me the dollar.
Well, Floyd is so good at marketing. He's just so smart at that.
Yeah.
Did he learn a lot of that shit from you?
I think we taught one another a lot of things. You know what I mean? But he definitely took things to a whole different level with what he done and accomplished. Yeah.
But what happened with you guys? You guys had a falling out, right?
Well, I think it was more so the group of guys he was with. And some of my guys, and I wrote about it in my book, The Art and Science of Respect. Yeah, I wrote about that story. Basically, they had convinced him to not want to pay me after all the creative work that was put in, and I was able to change his mind.
That's what I heard. Yeah. But you guys are still cool.
Yeah, no, we're beautiful. Cool. That's the homie. Beautiful. It never was about he and I. We just had to agree to do the right thing, and we was able to do that. And hey, that's the homie.
It's unfortunate that he didn't recognize your talents and have you stay involved with them.
Well,
or that his people didn't. Yeah, I should say.
I enjoyed the journey. I was with him for 4 years, and I helped lay the foundation that he was able to build off of. And you know, I was grateful for that because that ignited my whole career where boxing was concerned. So, you know, life goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who you work with Shakur Stevenson right now?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have Shakur Stevenson. Oh man, I got
How many fighters do you have in your roster currently?
I think like 14 fighters. I have
And I love that this is a passion project for you.
Oh,
that
man.
this is not like your main source of income by any means. This is just something you truly enjoy.
Yeah, no, I really love this. I have Shakur Stevenson, Tony Yoka, Jared Anderson, Jahad Tucker, Julian Rodriguez, Mozzie, Duke Reagan, Troy Isley.
So all levels.
Oh man, I got
All
some
levels.
of the best, man.
Yeah.
What I've done and what I'm doing right now is actually making a move to take over. You know, I'm predicting in 2021, 22, I should have a champion at every weight.
Now, do you have interest in management and promotion? Do you have interest in putting on shows?
No. You know, in boxing, you can only choose one or the other.
Right.
You can't participate in both worlds. So I'm a manager. I negotiate against the promoters. I protect the fighters.
That's the big issue with fighters. That's why I was going to get to that. Is that fighters seem to have more conflicts. Like this shit that happened with Bob Arum and Terrence Crawford, that turned my stomach. When you got a guy as good as Terrence Crawford, who legitimately could be one of the all-time greats, it might be already, one of the rare, like a switch hitter who's just as good orthodox as he is at southpaw, figures everybody out, beats everybody, and then he talks crazy shit like about losing money promoting his fights. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Maybe you're doing a shitty job promoting him. You got in your roster one of the greatest of all time, a real stone cold killer.
Yeah.
Terrence Crawford is a stone cold killer.
Oh, man.
And you should be singing his praises. Knocked out Kell Brook with a jab.
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically a jab.
Yeah, it was a jab.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And then that's what started the party and then beat the fuck out of him afterwards. But he's something really unique.
Yeah. No, Terrence is one of a kind. You know, no doubt about it. He's a special fighter.
But for Bob Arum to say that, it turned my stomach. I was like, what are you doing? How can you say that? Like, keep that if you're losing all that money, first of all, keep that shit to yourself. But what you should be saying is, how good is Terrence Crawford? You should be letting everybody know. You should be shouting it from the mountaintops. Look how good this guy is. We can't get this guy fights because people are terrified of him because of this. Because he knocks out Kell Brook with a jab. Because he fucks everybody up. He figures people out. He figures you out orthodox, then he switches up southpaw on you and starts beating the brakes off you. He's something really unique. I'm a giant Terrence Crawford fan.
Me too.
Love that dude.
I can't wait to see him fight Errol Spence.
Woo! Is that going to be interesting?
Yeah.
Especially after Spence, his recent victory over Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spence is something special too. I thought when that car accident happened, I thought, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's crazy is he survived because he didn't have his fucking seatbelt on. That's what's crazy.
That's real crazy. I think let's go further than that. He survived because the Creator protected him.
Something happened.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to believe the Creator's protecting anyone, he protected Earl Spence that day.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Because that was, he's one of the fighters that's actually sponsored by my company on it as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we sponsored Earl like early on, like years ago.
Okay.
He's a special fighter, and he hasn't had the right dance partner to show his true greatness. You know, he's had great fighters, to establish the fact, like Mikey Garcia, man, he's something unique and special. But it's gonna take a fight like the Terrence Crawford fight, and that's if you're a boxing fan, that's the obvious fight to make.
Oh,
you know, it's like Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. That's the obvious heavyweight fight to make.
Yeah.
And the obvious fight at that weight class is Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford. It has to happen.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later, right. You don't want it to be like Pacquiao and Floyd, where it happens too late.
Right. Yeah.
What's happening here? Pound for pound rankings. Errol Spence Jr. passes Terrence Crawford. What? Blasphemy.
Wow.
Blasphemy.
Wow.
That's some shenanigans.
Who wrote that?
Yeah, that's shenanigans. I don't agree with that.
Wow.
Number 1, Canelo. Inoue, number 2. That's interesting, too. I
Yeah.
don't agree with that either.
Yeah, no, that thing
But
is...
they're great. Those are
Yeah.
great fighters. Pound for pound's always weird, though, too, right?
Yeah, it's political.
Yes. Yeah, it is political. There's nothing wrong with, like, thinking that Errol Spence is one of the greats right now. He is. But I think he needs a victory over someone like Terrence Crawford.
He been doing his thing, you know. He been doing his thing, but they just need to fight sooner than later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's put all of that lip wrestling
Yes.
to sleep and get
Lip
in that
wrestling?
ring. Yeah.
Isn't that the thing, though, with promoters, though? In boxing, it's very difficult to get champions to fight champions when they're represented by different promoters.
Yeah, that becomes political as well, and hopefully those boxing promoters. I know Top Rank want to fight Terrence. Want to fight Spence. So it's just a matter of
And who is Spence with?
Al Heyman.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
a matter of them coming to the table and making it happen.
Yeah, they just have to agree on terms. It's an exciting time for boxing, though. You know, boxing comes in waves.
Yeah.
And right now, it's an exciting time for boxing.
is.
There's a lot
It
of
is.
great matchups out there.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited about Shakur Stevenson. Did you see him fight the other night?
I didn't. No,
Oh,
I
man.
didn't watch the fight.
To me, he gonna be a Mayweather on steroids.
Really?
Yeah, I really view him up on the ladder like that.
Well, it's one of the fights that I set aside that I have to make the time. I'm just too goddamn busy
Yeah.
to sit down and watch it.
It wasn't nowhere near close. It was kind of like a lot of flawed fights in the beginning stages where he just dominated every round.
Wow.
But you could still see that sweet art of what he was doing. And you're like, wow, okay. He going to do the same thing, on the other levels.
It's an interesting time now because these fights are being held with no audience, or very limited audience. Like Anthony Joshua's fight, they held it in London, and there was some audience members, but they were very spaced out.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
Well, I think we have to adjust to, the world and the reality of what's taking place right now. In a perfect world, I miss the sounds,
Yeah.
That whole thing where the audience is concerned, that's missed dramatically, but hey, we have to adjust and do things by the rules. So
I miss it, but I have to tell you, calling UFC fights live with no audience, there's two different. I view it as this way. It's almost like going to see an acoustic concert versus like a big arena filled with people in a rock concert.
Right.
Like with electric guitars versus an acoustic guitar.
Right.
There's something about the intimacy of these shows where the fights are taking place with no audience. You could hear the cornermen screaming out instructions. You could hear the grunts when dudes get hit.
Yeah.
You could hear the heavy breathing. It's like, first of all, for me as a commentator to be there live, I feel so fortunate because I'm one of 20 people that's in the room to watch this world championship fight. And there's something about it that's like, it makes it extra special. And even watching the fights at home, I kind of like it. I like no audience. You hear more.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You got a point. I like it both ways, but if I had to choose, I want the people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if I had to choose, I'd want the people there because I want more people to experience it. I don't want to be selfish.
Yeah.
But if I'm being selfish, I kind of like no audience.
Yeah.
You just hear more.
That's real.
But there's something wild about crazy when crazy shit happens and the whole place gets on their feet and goes nuts.
Yeah.
And then when the fight is over, just the roar of the crowd.
Yeah.
There's something wild about that.
And it's something wild about a fighter that may be down and he energized by the crowd and make a comeback.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah.
So is that like what your most satisfying business venture, like being involved in boxing?
Yeah, it is. That's my first love, and I just think boxing is the most exciting sport in the world. So I'm in love with boxing, and I feel more joy in that space than a lot of the other businesses that I'm in.
Well, it's such a pure sport.
Yeah.
You know, the highs are so high and the lows are so low, and you know, especially when it comes to knockouts, the finishes are so definitive. What is your take on this this whole Deontay Wilder shit?
You know, man, I don't understand what's going on, you know, with Deontay. From what I'm hearing, is they may be trying to stop the Fury and Joshua fight from taking place. And, you know, my thing is, if he's not going to fight, get out the way. Let the movement continue, because I tell you what, I think he missed the opportunity. He should have fought Fury in December, because I think he would have had an edge conditioning-wise, because Fury, you know, wasn't in their gym properly.
Oh, he wasn't?
No, I don't think he was in their gym properly around that time.
So after the rematch, Fury slacked off?
Well, I don't know how much he slacked off, but I do know, you know, he wasn't where he was supposed to be.
He gets fat. He likes to get fat. He parties a little bit.
Yeah.
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 It's just, it bothers me because, you know, I've talked to Deontay. I had Deontay in here, and I have a lot of respect for him, and I have a lot of admiration for him, and his power is legendary. His power is crazy. Yeah. His power is like he's got magic.
Yeah.
You know? When he knocked out Ortiz, he hit him in the forehead and just shut his lights out. It's like, who the fuck does that?
No, he
it's
got
like
power.
It's magic. But when I saw, first of all, you get rid of Breland. Mark Breland is, you know, Olympic gold medalist, former world champion, not just a great fighter, but a great human being, a great coach, and was looking out for his best interest when he stopped that fight. He knew what was happening. He's like, this has to stop. And then the excuses. The excuses bother me. Because when fighters start making weird excuses, that means that no one's around them to go, hey, man, stop. What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying? Your costume was the reason why you got knocked out? And then it wasn't just the costume. Then it was like somebody might have poisoned him. And then it was Tyson Fury has egg weights in his gloves.
Wow.
And then it was the gloves aren't on properly, so that, you know, the knuckles were at the bottom part of the glove and the top part was just flopping around.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense for a guy who's in boxing. Because anybody who knows how Tyson Fury fights and understands boxing, Tyson does a lot of this shit. He does a lot of, like, he's showing you this to set you up with that.
Right.
The hands are flopping around because he's being loose and he's giving you this.
Right.
And people are like, your hand doesn't bend back that way. Well, the fuck it doesn't. It does when you do that. It might not if you go like this. It doesn't go all the way. But if you do that, that's exactly what happens. And he's doing that with his hands. He's flicking his hands out there, showing them that, and then dropping the right hand on him.
I was in training camp with Tyson Fury. I have a heavyweight by the name of Jared Anderson that sparred with Tyson Fury to help him get ready for that fight. And Tyson Fury was working hard. And that jab and everything that's being complained about, he was doing the same thing in sparring. Wasn't nothing to it, you know what I mean? It's organic. And, you know, you just got to tip his hat to the guy. He was a better guy that night. And he worked hard. I witnessed him. He worked hard for that fight. And he was victorious.
It's just sad when a great champion like Deontay Wilder, who literally knocked out every single opponent other than Tyson Fury and Stavern in the first fight. I mean, he had an incredible record. When you look at the guy's record, he has one single decision. Every other fight he won by knockout. Who the fuck does that? Who the fuck does that?
Tyson couldn't accomplish that.
No one accomplished that. You can make a real argument that Deontay Wilder, up until that second Tyson Fury fight, was the greatest knockout artist of all time. Especially in the heavyweight division. May not have, definitely didn't face the stiff competition that Mike Tyson did or that any of the other greats did. Larry Holmes did, or many greats. But what he did was extraordinary. The kind of power that he exhibits is just Teddy Atlas said it best. It's like he's like Thor. He's like he's got that hammer. Like it doesn't. He's like it's an eraser. It erases all the mistakes you might have made in the earlier rounds. Blah.
It's from the jungle. I don't know.
It's from the center of the earth, man. That's
Yeah.
like the earth's core inside
Yeah.
his glove. It's
Right.
crazy. His
Right.
power is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But sometimes, and I'm sure you see this as a manager, sometimes when a person has extraordinary gifts, like the extraordinary gift of power, they don't develop the technical aspects of boxing
Yeah.
the way a person who maybe has soft hands does.
Yeah, that's true. And even with speed, a lot of times, you know what I mean? If they get away like Roy Jones, for
Yes.
example, I think he got away years because of speed and his fundamentals
Yes.
wasn't as sound as they should have been.
Well, you saw that in the Hopkins rematch, right? Because
Yeah.
Bernard Hopkins was all about fundamentals,
Yeah.
all about defense and discipline.
Yeah.
And Hopkins lost a close decision to Roy in the first fight,
Right.
but then beat Roy in the second fight
Yeah.
when he was actually older than Roy. But Roy's decline was more obvious because Roy's game was so dynamic.
Yeah.
He was all about leaping left hooks. And when Roy was in his prime, he was a force of nature.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he really, really was. Roy was, in my opinion, the most impressive physical specimen inside a boxing ring I've ever seen.
A lot of people don't know, but Roy was faster than Floyd.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people don't believe that because he was light heavyweight. His speed was faster than Floyd's speed.
I can believe it.
Shit, I've witnessed it. It's crazy speed, man. And once the speed, Father Times is undefeated.
Undefeated.
You know what I mean? So when he started arriving, things changed. Shit just kind of go downhill to a certain extent.
Well, I think it was that, but I really think a big factor was the beating John Ruiz at heavyweight and then
Yeah.
draining his body down to
Yeah.
175 to go back and fight Tarver again.
Yeah.
To fight Tarver and then fight Tarver again. It's just, it was too much weight loss.
Wow, man. Now that's a whole nother story because I had a meeting with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson at my ranch for them to fight one another before that fight.
Really?
Yeah.
How long ago?
Oh, I got that in the book also, the
Oh,
picture
yeah?
and everything. Me, Roy, and Mike Tyson at the ranch. And we actually left there in agreement to make that fight. And, right toward the end, I think me and Roy, we went and met with the Maloof brothers at the Palms.
There it is.
Yeah. And, Roy decided, I think what's his name? Tarver was talking so much shit, man, until Roy was like, let me go take care of him one more time. And I was like, Roy, man, let's get that bird, in the hand versus that one in the bush. And yeah, he went to take care of Tarver, man. That's the only reason that fight didn't come to fruition.
Tarver's no joke.
Yeah.
Tarver's real. When Tarver is standing in front of Roy at the rematch and he goes,
Yeah.
"You got any excuses tonight, Roy?" Like right before the fight starts, like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off
Oh,
when I
my
heard him say
God.
that. I said, what that dude talking about in the ring to Roy?
And then to win by knockout after that,
Wow.
man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Tarver's, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves either. Tarver was a great boxer.
Yeah, he
I
was.
think he's still active as a heavyweight too, right? Like up until recently, I
Yeah.
believe he had a fight within the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think he got disciplined because of steroids or something, and and came.
If you
back
want to go to heavyweight,
yeah,
you got to get involved with Mexican supplements.
yeah, good guy though. I like Tarver.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a talented fighter.
Yeah.
Very talented fighter.
yeah, big heart.
Yeah, it's funny how those things line up. Like it could have been Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. when they're both in their prime.
Right, that's true. I really like the way Bernard Hopkins was able to. You saw the way he done Tarver. I think that was amazing the way he just dissected.
Hopkins shuts people
Yeah,
down.
he's
When
a
he
beast.
fought Felix Trinidad, I will never forget that because everybody thought that Felix Trinidad was this young, up-and-coming lion, and I believe Bernard was about 36 at the time,
Yeah.
and people were writing him off, but Bernard Hopkins beat the brakes off of Felix Trinidad.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that fight. I'm like, my God.
Yeah, he done the same thing with a guy I used to manage, Winky Wright.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Winky Wright was a great defensive fighter, too.
Oh, yeah. Good
He was
jab.
so clever.
Yeah.
So clever. Well, I mean, how about what he did with Kelly Pavlik?
Oh yeah.
That was another. Everybody was like, well, now for sure it's over.
Right.
You know, this is years past Felix Trinidad. Kelly Pavlik's a knockout artist.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's like, well, this is going to be the one.
Nah. Amazing
No.
fighter.
Yeah.
Sweet science. He had it down pat.
Well, he was just so smart at being safe and roughing you up and knowing how to be like aggressive on the inside and clinching you and frustrating guys. And just his fundamental, he was never out of position.
Yeah.
His fundamentals are so good. His defense is so good.
Yeah. No, it's one of them special type of fighters for a long time.
Long time, world class, deep into his late 40s.
Yeah.
World class.
From
I mean,
Mars.
crazy. I mean, well, that's why he had to change his nickname from the Executioner to the Alien. Because people are like, how the fuck are you doing this?
Yeah. Push-ups between rounds.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's extraordinary. I love his story, too, because when he went to jail and then got out, one of the guards said, I'll see you back in here. Mm-hmm. And he remembers that guy and remember using that as motivation. Like, the fuck you will.
Yeah.
Whoops. We got crazy, Jamie. Do we have a broom?
We can get something.
All right, we'll leave that alone for now. It's just a glass.
Yeah.
But it's the whole sport of boxing is there's a lot of life in that. It's like what you put in is what you achieve. Like your results are dependent upon the way you process things and the way you approach things.
Oh yeah.
There's so much to that, and that's one of the things that I love so much about combat sports is that how much you put into that is what you get out of it.
That's right. You know, it's just like the universal laws of life. You know, you reap what you sow, and if you decide to take a shortcut, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna show.
Now, as a person that is, you're so invested in discipline and respect and honor, like it's kind of a perfect sport for you to be involved in a lot of ways, because it represents so many of those different aspects of human character.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't thought of it in that aspect, but you're right. You know, you're right. But I'm just in love with the sport of boxing, and it just been that way since I was a kid for some reason, like a magnet. I remember seeing Don King with the hair and Muhammad Ali, and man, I was mesmerized. Like, wow, that looks special.
I got interested in boxing when I was a little kid. My parents were hippies. Like, they weren't into boxing. Yeah. But when Muhammad Ali had a rematch with Leon Spinks, after Muhammad Ali lost his title to Leon Spinks and then had a rematch, my parents made us all watch it. Because Muhammad Ali represented way more than boxing to the culture, to human beings at the time.
Yeah.
He represented this guy who stood up against the Vietnam War, who stood up for people in a way that he risked his career.
Oh, yeah.
Got shut down for 3 years in his prime.
Yeah.
After arguably like one of his most devastating performances. He fought Cleveland Big Cat Williams, lights him up like a Christmas tree, and then they make him take 3 years off. Just because he wouldn't fight in the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Ali actually put his life on the line. You know, that's why I call him the greatest of all time, because of the things he done outside of the ring and the things he stood for. Yeah,
he was something other than just a world champion, other than just a boxer. Yeah. And I remember when my parents, I don't know how old I was at the time, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, but when my parents made me sit down and watch that fight, I remember thinking, I can't believe my parents give a fuck about boxing. Like, what is this? And I think that was what got me really interested in boxing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bigger than boxing when Ali took that stage, man. He special. I went to his funeral, and I never had experience like that with all the cultures and different things. I was like stunned. Like, wow. You know, people from all over the world was there speaking.
Really?
Yeah. It was really interesting.
Well, I mean, when he was alive, he was the most famous human being on earth.
Yeah. You know, I guess hearing about that was one thing, but to actually be sitting there and witnessing, you know, all these different people from around the world, you know, what he meant to them, I was like, wow, this was a special guy.
He was a special guy, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned, both good and bad, from his life as well.
Yeah.
You know, particularly about the end of his career.
Right.
It's some of the saddest shit, and not just that, but the way he was taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And, you know, that his need for money, that he
Yeah.
had not prepared properly and invested properly and just lived a little too loose and wild, and then had to take those fights, like with Trevor Berbick.
Yeah.
Those were sad fights.
Yeah, definitely the one with who was that he fought? Not from
Larry Holmes?
Larry Holmes. Oh,
Oh.
man, I left that fight kind of upset with Holmes.
Yeah, a lot of people were.
You know what I mean? I really think he went that extra. He didn't have to, but he
Yeah.
went there.
Well, he was his sparring partner.
Yeah.
He was Ali's sparring partner for a long time. And I think there was probably a bridge he had to cross to consider himself like the real champion. And I think it ruined his career.
Yeah.
Because I think Larry Holmes never really got the respect that he deserved because of that. Because people resented him
Yeah.
for, you know, for doing that, and then also just living in the shadow of Ali.
Yeah, you can only imagine how many whoopings he took from Ali coming up.
Yeah.
You know, that thing went deeper than what was in front of the TV.
The problem is we didn't see that. All we saw
Exactly.
was this beloved champion who was this cultural icon
Yeah.
get the shit beat out of him by this young,
Yeah.
up-and-coming champion.
Yeah, just like with Kobe and Jordan. I remember seeing Kobe like shit Jordan down in an All-Star game, and I was like, man, raise up, Kobe. Let Jordan shine his last game, you know. But Kobe wasn't trying to hear it.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
At least that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Because in basketball, it's, you know, it might have felt terrible for Jordan,
Yeah.
but it's not a beating.
Right.
That's the thing about boxing is you
Yeah.
pay for it with your health.
Yeah.
And those consequences, the consequences of a big, like, Meldrick Taylor was never the same
Whoa.
after the Julio Cesar Chavez fight. It was
Whoa.
never the same.
Boy, wasn't that a brutal fight, man?
Brutal fight.
Man.
When Richard Steele stopped, it was like 2 seconds to go on the
Whoa,
clock or something
man.
crazy.
Whoa.
But that's a great example that I always use of a fight where the fighter is never the same again.
Yeah.
You don't recover from some fights. Some
Yeah.
fights take all of it out of you.
Yeah. Leave it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was never the same after that.
Never.
And then I remember his fight with Terry Norris after that.
Yeah.
You could see that he was just not the same. He
Yeah.
wasn't the same guy.
And Terry is not the same guy.
He's not the same guy now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had a lot of rough fights too. Julian Jackson,
Yeah.
you know.
Man, you're a real student of boxing.
Love
man.
boxing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Man,
The Hawk.
Feel like I'm sitting there talking to an encyclopedia, man. You know the game, man.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Julian Jackson was one of those rare special punchers.
Ooh, man. Can crack.
Special.
Yeah.
Special power.
Yeah.
You know? But then when Julian met Gerald McClellan,
Yeah.
Gerald McClellan was like, I'll show you a special puncher.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and look what happened with him.
That's another one, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that I talked to Roy about. That made Roy like really second guess and think about his career because when Gerald McClellan was coming up, he was thought to be the big rival for Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that's going to be the big fight. When
Yeah.
those two guys get together, that is going to be our version of in that weight class at that time of what we want to see with Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence.
Yeah,
Same
exactly.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like two just destroyers.
Right.
Like what happens? What happens when you get these guys together? I want to see.
Right.
And then Gerald fought Nigel Benn.
Mm.
Whew, what a
That was
fight
a
that
tough one.
was.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That was I mean, you could still watch it to this day, and what a fucking war that was. And the fact that Nigel Benn made it out of that first round,
Yeah, unbelievable.
what heart.
Unbelievable.
What heart.
Yeah.
I mean, Gerald McClellan was nuking everybody, just nuked them. Just boom, boom.
Yeah.
And Nigel Benn threw the ropes and everything, where everyone's like, this fight's over.
Yeah.
Nope.
You kind of you never had opportunity to see him come to fruition, and that remind me of Ike Ibuchi.
Ike
that's-
Ibeabuchi,
Yeah,
yes.
that's a heavyweight. I
Yeah.
would have really liked.
Oh,
to.
my God.
He's a beast, right?
When he beat David Tua,
Yeah.
everybody was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Ike Ibeabuchi was terrifying.
Yeah. He was.
But he got in some serious trouble, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Las Vegas.
Well, there was talk of him coming back at 40 years old. He was going to get released from prison.
Yeah, he got out.
He did get out.
Yeah, he got out. It just didn't work.
Yeah, it was too late.
I went and visited him when he was in jail in Las Vegas. And, man, they brought him out in shackles, and the guards were like, you here to visit him, man? He been beating up all the cellmates, the inmates, the guards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was letting them have it in there.
That is the last dude you want to talk shit to in jail. Ikai Beabuchi.
Yeah.
God damn.
He's a beast, man.
Whoo.
Like a big Holyfield.
Yeah. Huge.
Dangerous.
Jacked.
Yeah.
What they call him, the president? That was his nickname, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My God, he was a tank.
Man, special dude.
And when he went to jail, everybody was, boxing fans were like, oh no. He just, whatever he had, that rage inside the ring,
Yeah.
that rage continued throughout life. Sir.
Lay your loyalty, please.
Here we go, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thanks for being here, man. I really
Hey,
appreciate
man,
it.
Thanks
I enjoy
for
talking
having
to
me,
you.
man. I'm enjoying every moment.
What do you think about these guys that are decided to fight again in their 50s? Guys like Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., and now Holyfield as well.
I enjoyed the last fight.
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different, but, I like it as long as they don't jump in with these younger guys.
Yes, that's
You know
exactly
what I
how
mean?
I feel. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel.
I mean, I love the change.
Yeah.
I enjoy both of them coming out of the ring like they went in.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? Of course, they got them a payday. So I like it. I'm really looking forward to seeing Holyfield and Tyson
Yeah.
fight.
Holyfield has been working nonstop. Nonstop.
Yeah.
Holyfield's a unique character, man.
Oh yeah.
He's
Yeah.
unbreakable.
One of my favorite.
He might lose.
Yeah.
He might lose to people, but that's just because of the limitations of the human body, not because of his mind.
Yeah.
Like, his mind is unbreakable. That guy has confidence in himself that never ends,
Oh man.
and character. Just the ability to drive forward and
Yeah.
to conquer. Those fights with Riddick Bowe, my God. My
Oh,
God.
man.
Crazy
It was
wars
great,
with
yeah.
Riddick Bowe.
Yeah.
People forget about those wars.
Yeah.
Oh my God! When I was a kid, when watching those fights, like, you'd be like, "This is madness."
Yeah.
These guys were going to war.
I couldn't believe his chin. Holyfield got
Incredible.
a chin like none other.
Like nobody. Like, incredible.
And it been that way.
That shows you how good James Toney is, because James Toney stopped him.
Yeah.
I watched that fight recently,
Yeah.
and James Toney's a middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? James Toney at his best.
Yeah. He's a technical beast.
Oh
though.
my God!
Yeah.
And one of the greatest shit talkers of all time. He would talk so much shit, just
Yeah.
in sparring,
Yeah.
in fights,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Out the ring.
Yes. No, James
Yeah.
Toney's
That's
he's
the
amazing.
homie. That's the home.
I ran into James Toney a couple of years ago
Yeah.
at there was a bar in Woodland Hills.
Yeah.
And I was with some friends. I went to meet them. Sat down. I was with my wife and a couple of her friends as well. We're having a drink, and this dude walks in with a suit, and they're like, "Who is that?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Who is that?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is that?" I got up out of the chair. I go, "That's James fucking Toney."
Yeah.
And I went over and gave him a hug and said hi to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He had fought in the UFC a few years earlier.
Oh yeah.
He
I
fought
remember that.
Randy Couture. Yeah.
It didn't last long.
He just took a payday. I don't think he was really training for it.
Yeah.
He lived in my neighborhood at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I ran into him at the gas station afterwards.
Right.
Like a couple weeks after the fight. I was, what's up, James? How you doing? He's like, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
No, those guys, the boxers are kind of out of line when they decide to go in there dealing with that UFC business.
It takes a long time to learn, but I think if they approach it correctly, if they're young while they get involved and they approach it correctly. See, I think one of the more interesting entrants into mixed martial arts is Claressa Shields.
Oh yeah.
Because Claressa is a beast of an athlete.
Right.
I mean, incredible athlete and young.
Yeah.
She's young. She can still learn all this stuff. Olympic gold medalist, world champion boxer, tremendous hand speed, technical boxing skills, off the charts. Then she goes and trains with John Jones.
Yeah.
John Jones, who's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
So she's training with the greatest of all time, and she's learning the wrestling, the takedown defense,
Yeah.
and she's going to have such an advantage with her hands. And
It's
every
gonna be
fight starts
interesting to
standing
see.
up. She's going to learn.
Yeah.
And she's doing the right moves, in my opinion. She signed with the PFL, which is a smaller organization, and she'll rack up some wins over there,
Yeah.
hopefully, and then make her way eventually to the UFC. And I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I spoke with her, and she, was voicing to me her frustration where boxing was concerned, and that
Yeah.
she was really thinking about going over there. So I guess she decided.
Yeah, I
to.
talked to her a few years ago on Instagram, and I said, "Are you interested in? Are you going to fight MMA? Because I know you're interested in this. Because I know she did some sparring with Cyborg. And she said she's thinking about it. And we had talked about doing a podcast before I left LA.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of hers. But I don't think there's any competition for her in boxing. I think she's stuck. Look at that. Look at all those belts. Pow.
Wow.
When it comes to boxing, who is she going to fight? There's only been a few standout women boxers, and the
Yeah.
big problem has always been competition, like
Right.
Ann Wolfe, for
Right.
example. Ann Wolfe to this day, who has, like, in my opinion, the greatest one-punch knockout in the history of women's boxing.
Whoa.
Ann Wolfe could crack.
Yeah.
She could crack. And amazing trainer.
Oh,
When she
yeah.
was training James Kirkland, and she was having him do all kinds of crazy shit, like she cracked that whip, and James Kirkland was at his best when he was
true.
under the tutelage of Ann Wolfe.
Yeah. Right here in Austin.
Ann Wolfe was a monster.
Yeah.
Show that one punch knockout because it is crazy. And it's right before that. Watch this power. Seriously, who's got this kind of power? Right here. Boom!
Ooh, wow.
I mean, come
Like
on.
so.
And just everything.
Whoa.
Technical, had incredible work ethic. I mean, Ann Wolfe was a monster. But
Yeah.
who was there for her? Who was there?
Layla
Yeah.
Ali, but that
Yeah,
never
she-
happened.
Never happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Layla Ali is another one.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali's daughter rose to fame. He made some money, but what's the competition? Who's there for her? You know? It's hard. Lucia Riker never got her due.
Riker, yeah.
Lucia Riker was a beast.
Yeah,
A
Riker.
beast.
Yeah, she was
And
the
she was an
truth.
elite kickboxer too.
Yeah,
She was from
Riker.
Holland.
I
Which is
remember
Holland is the birthplace of Muay Thai came from Thailand, but Holland, they took Muay Thai and turned it into this style of kickboxing, this Dutch kickboxing.
Right.
And Lucia Riker was a beast of a kickboxer. Couldn't really get the fight she wanted there and decided to go into boxing. Always chased down Christy Martin, but
Right.
never got that fight. Christy Martin was on a lot of
Yeah.
undercards, and she got kind of famous, coal miner's daughter.
daughter,
But
yeah.
again, it's like they don't get the fights that they want,
Yeah, that's true.
It's a hard world.
Yeah, hard, but it's fair.
But MMA is the only place right now where women can shine for whatever reason, where they have like legitimate elite status, where they get a lot of press, they get a lot of they get the accolades, they get the respect, they get the money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
do you follow MMA at all?
Not totally. I watch here and there, but yeah. I just love that guy that wrestled the Bears and
Khabib.
yeah.
Khabib
He's a
Nurmagomedov is a monster. He's a monster.
Yeah,
yeah.
He really is a monster.
He's a monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
So disciplined. So disciplined. Yeah. There's a guy very religious. No drinking, no smoking, no
okay.
fucking around, no nothing. Devout Muslim. Just discipline.
Wow.
Just full and a champion's mentality. And undefeated. Undefeated in the most talent-filled weight class in the world at 155 pounds. No one's undefeated at 155. This guy, he's not just undefeated. He might have lost 2 rounds in his whole career.
Yeah.
Might have. Maybe just one.
Wow.
Everybody else just gets smashed.
It's amazing where you see greatness. It's never without that discipline and that individual that's making that commitment to, become great.
Yeah.
It's never missing.
No, it's never missing. It's never missing. You get flashes of spectacular talent without discipline. There's always been a few guys that were like very talented, and you'd see him, you're like, wow, this guy's dangerous, he's very talented.
Yeah.
But without discipline, you never develop that sort of legacy
Yeah.
that a true champion like Khabib has. It
And
always comes with
And,
discipline.
and in real life, too. to a
Yes.
certain extent. You know, you
Yeah.
just don't. It don't happen. A lot of people call it luck. Nope.
Yeah, they like to call it luck when they don't have the discipline and the time. They don't do it. They like to call it luck. But
Right.
when someone's consistent over long periods of time,
Yeah.
pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention. There's some fucking discipline involved there.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise, they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
There has to be. There has to be that work ethic.
You're right.
It doesn't. There's no real long-term success exists without it. You can have these little flashes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The problem with those flashes is you're given a gift.
Yeah.
And you don't give that gift the respect and the justice that it deserves.
Yeah. That's that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus the movement.
Yes. Yes. The moment versus the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people never learn that. When you wrote this book, was this a book not just to sort of relay the lessons that you've learned in your life, but to lay them out for young people and for people that need this information?
Yeah, I think a combination of both. You know, it was, I come from I guess it came from an energy and a situation of me, first of all, what happened where I was concerned. You know, my wins, my losses, everything happened in between. And I think it just like covered ground in areas that I, you know, wasn't really thinking it would cover, but you know, just being real, you know, it's something about being real. I figured that out where my kids was concerned, you know, when I would speak with them and not try to, you know, sugarcoat different things, but just the butt-naked, authentic truth. You know, I noticed they embrace the truth just a little better than trying to sugarcoat things. So in my book, I just raw and uncut. You know, this is how it was. So I'm going to just tell it like it is.
Was this a calling for you? Did you have like this feeling in your head that you needed to do this and write this all down?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it definitely was a calling because I was a guy that I enjoyed being a quiet storm in the music industry. I never, if anybody that followed my, you know, my track record and thing from the past, I was low key. And it came a point where I call it the spirit kind of moved on me to, you know, matter of fact, it's living out my purpose. You know what I mean? It's one thing to engage with your talent and show everybody your talent. And then I think as human beings, as we evolve, then there's a time for purpose. And in my purpose, I want to inspire, uplift, you know, kind of help my fellow man to a certain extent. So all of that was the movement that caused me to want to share, you know, my story.
So was it all the lessons that you learned in your life? They're just sitting in your mind, and you're saying like, I have to share these. These are valuable for other people, and it will help other people.
Yeah, most definitely. I knew when I had to go back and like really think of the things that I had came through. I didn't really do that before I wrote the book. I just went to like recording my stories on paper, and I'm like, wow, you know, I came from a lot of shit. I went through a lot of, you know, trials, tribulations, and different things like that I know people go through, you know, because as I would travel around the world, everybody asked me, how you done this? What, when, where, how you was able to accomplish these things. So it was like a build-up was taking place over the years that, okay, I need to share, you know, my glory, because everybody want my story. No, everybody want my glory, but everybody don't want my story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's so valuable about a book like this is for young people, they get to read all the things you went through, and it gives them a structure. It gives them an idea what's possible for themselves. When they see someone they admire,
Yeah.
and someone that's become extremely successful, and they read how it all went down,
Yeah.
and then they apply that in their own life, they think about their own life, it's very valuable.
Yeah.
Like a book like this can be fuel to a young person that's thinking about, how do I become successful? How do I become someone that I like, the people that I admire? Well, you read a book by the people that you admire, and you try to figure out what they did.
Yeah.
And you read what they were thinking, what it was like for them, and you absorb that and take it in yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely, that's absolutely true. It's kind of hard to get a lot of people to read, and I was one of those people, and that's why on my journey now, I really try to express and explain to them that readers are leaders. If you want to become a leader, it's important to read, because it was reading that really caused my career to go to a whole nother level when I
Really?
started reading. Because I was kind of where I come from, reading wasn't popular. It was like a boring thing to do, but it's a lot of power in reading. And I wanted to be an example to people like myself, that didn't believe in reading, or just if you're interested in how to turn nothing into something, if you're interested in the structure and the different rules of how to do things, then pick up a book. Get the Art and Science of Respect.
What were the books that inspired and educated you when you first started reading them?
The biggest one that was life-changing to me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Very
one.
interesting book.
Yeah, very. And what it done for me, that particular book, I had a lot of gifts and a lot of powers that I was unaware of. And I also wasn't aware of the importance of structure, organizing and goals, writing the goals down and different things like that. So when I read that book, it was, I tell everybody, it was like a lot of biblical readers are familiar with Moses when he went up to get the 10 Commandments, and he came back with his eyes on fire, and like, what I mean, he had saw something special. When I read that book, that's what happened to me. A lot of my brain cells that was closed was open, because I understood that I didn't really necessarily need a degree. I was in bondage for a long time thinking because I didn't have a degree, I couldn't accomplish and become certain things. That left immediately. You know what I mean? And that's the importance of people, being able to identify with people that, came from a place that they came from. You know what I mean? I didn't have that, but I figured out how to do it. So you could figure out how to do it the same way, I did, without, of course, we definitely push people toward, education, because, I understand real clearly a lack of education and bad habits is what, can cause you to stay in bondage.
It's beautiful, though, that you promote. That's self-education. It is education.
Yeah.
I mean, education doesn't just have to be at a school where you have to pay and go to.
Right.
You can get a tremendous education from books.
Yeah, that's true.
Did someone refer that book to you? Did someone try to get you to read these books, or did you just find them on your own?
That particular book, every night, of my life since I've been like 9 years old, I've been a praying man, and I always pray for wisdom, knowledge, and education. And when that book, came in my hand, I felt like it was answered prayer. You know what I mean? So when I started reading the book, I couldn't put it down. You know what I mean? And it caused me to, I think I stayed in my room for like 2 days. And when I came out, I like reconstructed my whole company at Rap-A-Lot. I went and like ended up buying out my partner. I had a meeting with him, and I told him, I say, I want to run my company now. You know what I mean? Because I had been using him for years as the guy up front. He had the degree, and I felt like, he was more qualified to do these things than I was. So I stayed in the background, worked in the studio with the artists, and just made sure product was being done. But after reading that and educating myself that you are fully qualified, more than qualified to do this, I had a meeting with him and tried to convince him to take a back seat and let me run the situation, which led to me having to buy him out because he didn't feel I was qualified. So against all odds, I bought him out. And the banker, the distributor, everybody was trying to discourage me, and everybody was saying I'm going to be out of business in 6 months if I do that. So I wasn't trying to hear any of that. You know what I mean? I fired like 25 people and kept like 3. And within them 6 months, I had set a record in Rap-A-Lot that had never been set before financially.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, a real
That's
story.
beautiful. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Did you get inspired by any other books after that?
Man, I get inspired by, I'm like on a reading journey right now. The Master Key. You know, I love that book. I don't know if you read The
No, I
Master
haven't.
Key. It's another great one. That's another one that really taught me about the universal laws of life. You know what I mean? It was important for me to learn about the universal laws because there was a time in my life I was working against the universal laws. And to understand how the universal laws operate, you know, has caused me to be able to live a much smoother, fruitful life, you know, without going against them.
Like what specifically about the universal laws?
Okay, other words, like if you have an understanding, let's just say on the law of gravity. If you really understand the law of gravity and you understand that if I get on top of this building and jump down, that I'm not going to float, then, you know, you don't, you don't have to float, right?
Right.
And if you understand the law of attraction, if you understand the power of your mind that you can dream of these things and execute a work ethic and different things behind the law of attraction and you focus on that, then you can bring that to fruition. So, you know, those are powerful laws that meant a difference to me.
And when you do you have a book list of like these books that have inspired you that you recommend to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that listed anywhere where anybody can access that?
Yeah.
Is it online or something?
Well, I may have a few.
You got
of
it in
them.
your phone?
Yeah.
But I mean, for people listening to this conversation right now
Right.
that want to be as successful as you, there's probably like a lot of people like, come on, Jay, tell me what you got.
They want to know about the books, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, man. I mean, there's so much in learning what the people that you admire were inspired by, because I'm sure you're inspiring people with your work, and the people that are inspired by you are like, well, what inspired him? How did he get all this juice? How did he get all this motivation? How did he get all this information?
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, we definitely can't leave out the Word of God. You know what I mean?
Have you
those books-
you've always been a very religious person?
I don't know if I would call it very religious, but I've always been a believer. And the Bible, for example, you know, Proverbs is one of my favorite chapters. You know, I've been able to use Proverbs, which was written by King Solomon, the smartest man in the world. That has, you know, when I used those principles, I was able to compete with all the degrees in the world. You know what I mean? From a business perspective, from a personal, you know, like a roadmap in my personal life, just Proverbs, you know. So it's different things like that I was able to execute that, you know, made a major difference.
You got a list on your phone there?
Yeah, okay. Here's a few. Of course, Think and Grow Rich, Compound Effect, The Art and Science of Respect, The Passion Test, The Master Key System. Okay.
So all these books are essentially about success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really read a lot of fiction. I don't have time to.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
get it.
I'm trying to like be better.
Yeah.
So I'm always like chasing that book that would add to, you know, what I already have.
One of the things that I read about you that was crazy was that there was a time where the feds had tried to take you out.
Mm-hmm.
You were
True story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were formulating a company with it was Suge Knight and was it Irv?
Irv Gotti.
Irv Gotti.
Yeah.
And you and Suge Knight were formulating your own distribution company.
Right.
And what happened?
Well, my journey with them trying to take me out happened way before then.
Really?
But, oh, yeah.
When
yeah.
did it start?
I would say it started back in the early 90s. You know, I remember, and here's what happened. Here's what I believe with all of my heart. You know, I'm a guy that made a transition from the streets to corporate America in my early 20s. And I really believe that they saw greatness taking place with me. And I say that because, you know, as I started making my transition and started prospering, I started driving nicer cars. You know what I mean? I started like empowering ex-convicts and different things. I built Rap a Lot. We became the #1 independent label for years, you know, with ex-convicts, you know, and it's something I put together, you know, and I used a formula, you know. I told these guys, okay, you got to get that world up, and I want it completely given up if you coming over here to deal with me, because I understood that if you give up 99% and hold on to one, they'll take that one and destroy the 99. So with that understanding, we was able to build a #1 record label for years, but it caused problems because they felt like I was money laundering. It felt like a lot of things was taking place where my success was concerned, and a lot of animosity built up, which ultimately led to DEA coming involved and them trying to like take my very life. But and we can talk about that part, but you asked me about the Suge and Irv Gotti situation. What we had done is had a meeting in L.A., and we were considering starting a black-owned distribution because we felt like it was a need for artists to come after us, and we was trying to make a better way and a smoother way for them, because even back then I saw where change was trying to take place in the industry, and they wasn't going to allow, I call it a conspiracy. I saw the conspiracy taking place where they wasn't going to allow any more Master P's, Cash Money, Irv Gotti.
Independent.
Yeah,
people.
independence. They was like shutting that door.
Yeah.
So, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I see the move they making. Let me counter this and create another avenue for the youth to come in after us. And unfortunately, I think they witnessed the same thing, and they hit Murder Inc., which is Irv Gotti company, destroyed it. They hit Suge Knight, Death Row. We know what happened with that. And they came at me in a massive way, you know, all the way up to the point where they put a man on me that killed 8 people. And I really believe, you know, he was trying to kill me.
And when you say they put a man on you, like, in what way?
They assigned a guy by the name of Schumacher, you know, on me to arrest me, to whatever he was supposed to do, but he sent death threats at me. And here's a man that killed 8 people. You know, I hired an investigator. Since they was investigating me, I decided to hire an investigator to investigate them. And that's when I found out this guy killed all of those people. You know, I brought the investigating report so you can look at it if you choose to.
Yeah, you showed me outside. Yeah.
So, you know, this was a real life situation that people may hear and think, you know, this is not true. But here's confirmation of how true it was. In 1999, you know, I reported this with the help of Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Janet Reno, because they intervened on my behalf because they saw what was happening. And of course, they had a congressional hearing on me. All of this is public information. A congressional hearing where the DEA and, you know, it reminded me of the time when Clarence Thomas was being a hearing was taking place over his harassment or something. Yeah. And all of those people, Democrat and Republicans, was around, you know what I mean, had him in a circle. So this is the conversation they was having concerning me, James Prince, and I'm watching this, you know, on video. I'm not invited, but I'm watching them have this conversation about me, about the congressional hearing, and I'm just like, wow, you know, these people want me pretty bad. But a long story short, you know, they were able to speak up on my behalf, and, you know, which ultimately, there's so many connections to this, because even Al Gore came in a portrait where they tried to set me up at my church with Al Gore. Al Gore came to visit my church, which when you're running for president, you visit a lot of black churches and stuff like that. And my pastor wanted me to meet Al Gore that day. So when I pull up, I was married at the time, I told my wife, I say, all these people ain't here with the president, because I was watching body language. I saw black glasses kind of looking my direction, and she said, oh, come on, boy, you being leery. Them people not thinking about you or whatever. So I went and heard the sermon, and before the sermon was over, I say, let's go. Normally I hang around and socialize, and of course, Pastor wanted me to meet Al Gore. I decided to leave. And shortly after, the Dallas newspaper came out with a story, and all of this you can confirm and look it up. James Prince donated $250,000 to Al Gore at the church to stop an investigation on him. Oh man, just a bunch of BS. Unbelievable. You know what I mean? So I was being set up.
In the news.
Oh yeah, it's documented.
So they created this fake story to make you look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they printed it in the news. So it had to be coordinated at the very top.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? To know they were conspiring against you like that?
First
of all, you had to feel like, oh shit, I must have fucking made it.
Well, I didn't quite feel that I had made it. I felt like they wanted to hit me.
Yeah.
Because like this guy, one night I left my office and a DPS officer stopped me. He got behind me on the streets when I left out of the office, but he stopped me on the freeway. And it was the first time I was stopped one time to be told to go and stop again. So he stopped me on the freeway and told me to go and pull in the McDonald's parking lot. So I said, oh, okay. So as I exit the freeway and looked over in the McDonald's parking lot, it was dark. And I saw a Cherokee Jeep, green, and a Cutlass. And it was dark. So I'm like, nah, I'm not pulling in that dark. So I kind of told him I'm going to pull in the Shell station where the lights were. So, and I could hear him in the back, pull fucking over on his thing, make a right. I'm like, nah, I'm going to go over here. So I went over there in the light. I had some guys behind me following me because they had been sending me threats. So I'm not stupid. So I understood that, I need to cover myself until I make it home. And when I pulled over, the officer got out and he said, why you didn't pull over like I told you? I say, sir, I didn't want you to think I was trying to hurt you in that dark, and I didn't want to think you was trying to hurt me. What's the problem? Well, you were swerving. I say, no. I say, you got the wrong man. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Wasn't no swerving going on with me. Well, where are your guns? Right? How do he even know I have guns? I gave him my gun license. I say, well, how you know I have guns? I haven't even given you my license. So I gave him my license. I say, my hand's on the steering wheel. My guns are under my seat. Well, get out the car. Get out. I say, okay, I don't have a problem with that. How much money you have? I say, you want to borrow some money or something? Why you ask me about my money? So he told me to go in the back of the car. So I went back there, and he went and searching my car. He in there. I see him like moving around with things, but he went on the passenger side. So I walk around. I say, man, why are you violating my rights, searching my car? And he jumped. Get back. I'm looking for the gun. I said, I told you where the guns are. Clearly you then passed them up. You got my clips out. So anyway, he came back, and I could see him making eye contact with the car, with the people across the street. And eventually one of them drove over. And this was an officer by the name of Chad Scott. He had like black paint under his eyes and an army fatigue type of uniform. And him and the officer, translated some words, and he came back to me and said, okay, you're free to go, and gave me a warning ticket, a warning ticket. And it was then when I got home, I realized a bullet or two was missing. So red flags
Oh shit.
like went up. I'm like, damn, why would they keep one of my bullets? Why were they trying to pull me in the dark? This was before I knew, Schumacher had killed 8 people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I went home, and that really caused me to, want to protect myself and want to document why I wanted to protect myself.
So bizarre that they would take bullets too, because without the rifling from your particular gun, like all it's establishing is the same round you use.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
It's weird.
It. I just counted them, and I'm like,
When
wow.
you said that they were threatening you, like death threats, like what kind of death? How were you receiving these?
What they were doing, and it's in the investigative report, people that worked for me, I had a street team that would promote my records in different clubs at night. What they had done was jumped on a couple guys. They pulled them over. They took them down to the station, stripped them naked, jumped on them, took their jewelry, all kinds of stuff, and send messages. Let him know, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Which eventually, when I made my report, they end up finding the jewelry and different things that I reported that, 'cause I told them, these guys, you got road cops. I said, y'all put a hitman on me. You got 2 road cops that's doing this and doing that, and I'm in fear of my life. I just want it to be known, because if a situation take place and I come out on top, then I don't want nobody to be mad at me, right? Because I'm going to protect myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long did this period of turmoil last? Because it seemed like that would be incredibly stressful.
Well, it went on for years.
Years.
Yeah. Even before then, they stopped me one night, and they planted a pill on me called ecstasy, and
Where'd they put it?
they put it, here's what happened. I was in the back seat. First of all, the police stopped me, and this was an officer I had a run-in with a pistol case, and I beat the pistol case. So he stopped me on Richmond one night, and he was like, well, how did you beat that case? And he knew it was me because I had rap light on my license plate. How did you beat? I said, man, I don't really want to talk about that. I said, I'm trying to go to a party. Why are you stopping me? So it made me get out, put me in the back of the police car. Kept me there, talking to people for, quite a long time. And he decided to take me off the main street to a side street. And it was then where he took me out of one car and took me to another car with 2 more younger rookie officers. And shortly after, he came out with a pill in the back of the first car. Look what we have here. And I'm like, when I seen that taking place, I said to the 2 officers, I say, man, I've been in here. Y'all know. He's, nah, you're not trying to do that. That's not. Look what we have here. Look what we have here. And before I know it, I was headed to the police station, and they charged me with a pill called ecstasy. And I immediately got out of jail, took a test, a drug test, took a lie detector test just to prove, I had nothing to do with any of that. So they tried to get me to cop out for probation and cop out. And I'm like, no. So the pill changed from ecstasy to Transact, whatever that pill is. And it changed again. It was constantly changing as they test the pill, and they was basically trying to get me to cop out for something, and I wouldn't. And eventually the case was dismissed.
So how many years did all this go on for? You said it went on for years. How many years?
I would say 10 years.
10 fucking
Yeah,
years.
10 years or better. I was a target.
How did you stay calm during that time? Because that's got to be incredibly stressful.
Yeah, it was, because like in the hood where I'm from, you have to survive the guys that's in the hood, because they trying to get you. Wherever success is concerned, they trying to get you. And the police that's supposed to be protecting me, the ones I'm paying all these taxes to, had became an enemy where they was trying to get me. So it was very stressful, but after so long I became immune to it. It's almost like, I had a made up mind because I was on a journey to break the poverty curse where my family was concerned. That was my whole drive. I'm like, I got to get my mother this house that she always wanted. I come from the projects. So I was dealing with a power that was greater than the powers from the streets and from the police. And I was like, no weapon formed against me gonna prosper. So, I had that mentality. I wrapped it around spirituality. And, I said, if God be for me, the world could be against me. And, it just became like a lifestyle dealing with them people.
So you just developed an immunity.
Yeah, I had to.
Like being around sick people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the DEA was trying to pin a case on you about, they figured there must be some money laundering going on because you're from the hood, because you're incredibly successful. Rap-A-Lot Records is killing it.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be something else going on. They probably can't help themselves. They didn't think that you had the kind of discipline that you had.
Yeah.
And they probably felt you kept one foot in the streets. You
Yeah.
kept one foot in either the drug game or some kind of crime they could catch you on.
So here's what they ultimately done, though. And, of course, I had ex-convicts and different things working for me. So what they actually done was they got a female that was spending money with one of my groups, with 2 or 3 of my groups, bringing them to New Orleans and different things to do different concerts. And this particular female ended up dating one of my guys that was working for me.
And she was a Fed.
She was a snitch. And she was trying to work out off a situation. So she's spending money with him. She's giving sex to him, and which ultimately led to her setting up a situation where she told him, oh, I have these 2 college guys that's coming in town, and they have $100 and some thousand. Now, all you have to do, I'm going to take them to Papados, and all you have to do is get the key off of the tire of my vehicle and go to the room and get the bag and go free. It's $100 and some thousand in it. So my guy that worked for me bid on that, but he bid on it in a manner where he sent someone else because he wasn't really hip to conspiracy, right? So he sent somebody else, a guy that's like a nobody. He sent him to go get it. But in the process of him sending, he was with me. This was a guy that was with me. It's almost like an angel sent me to pick him up and take him to a restaurant. And, when I read the transcripts, they having a conversation and he couldn't talk to her because he was around me. And he told her that, I'm around the homie, I can't talk right now. Well, why are you with him? This is what she's saying. We're supposed to be handling this business. So that conversation is one of the reasons why they couldn't get me. He couldn't even have a conversation around me. Other than that, they would have made it appear like I was involved.
So clearly you weren't involved.
No, real clearly because of those words. So, but they was able to penetrate the system by, getting him and another guy because they bit on that situation. And when they got that bag, it was drugs in that bag. They put kilos in that bag, even though she told them it was going to be money. The feds have a way of doing what they want to do, and they was able to stick.
So they basically take kilos from, like, when they bust someone for drugs, they take that shit and then they use it as evidence and then they use it to set somebody up.
Yeah. It should be illegal the way they done that. You know what I mean?
For sure, it's entrapment.
Yeah, it's entrapment. And what happened was the same guy that participated in that, Chad Scott, if you look up what happened to him a year or 2 ago, he got arrested for doing these very same things. A year or 2
So he's been
ago.
doing it for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
If he just got caught.
Think about the lives that he destroyed. Think about the people that is doing years, almost life sentences because of what he been doing.
Well, it's the darkest part of our criminal justice system. It's one of the things that I've talked to Josh Dubin about and Jason Flom when he was on here. This nonviolent drug offenses.
Yeah.
This long history of putting people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, and these people are still in jail. There's people in Colorado right now that are in jail for marijuana possession, and they can look out their prison window and see legal marijuana grow operations while they're in jail for marijuana possession and marijuana sales. It's crazy.
No, it's crazy, and it's a racist system, and, I hope someday, like real soon, it change. You know what I mean?
They're using people like human batteries to generate income because these prisons are all for profit.
Yeah.
They're private prisons for profit. There's an extraordinary amount of them.
Yeah.
And they're incentivized to get more people in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So they use lobbyists to make sure that drug laws stay the same or even stricter.
Yeah.
They keep those prisons filled and they generate income from those prisons. They use human beings.
Oh, yeah.
They get caught up in that trap literally as batteries. They're like batteries to make money.
Or legal slavery.
Legal slavery.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
exactly.
And we think it's over. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the darkest shit of all time. It's like there's no concern whatsoever for where these people came from, the situations that they faced, the obstacles that they overcame, and then the fact that they get set up.
Yeah.
That some of them are getting set up like this, and they're getting set up by people that are being paid in tax dollars.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity. And in the future, history, when they look back at us today, these times and these things, whatever is honestly discussed and told, it'll be a shame. It'll be shameful. People will be embarrassed by who we are today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I gave the analogy, like, with my guys. It was almost like, can you imagine, like, rehabilitating drug users that's going to a class where they are rehabilitating class, and the very officers that we pay our tax to are circling around that class where they are to try to give them cocaine to like get them to relapse. That's what was happening.
Yeah. That's what was happening. Because one of the things that I describe all the time when it comes to the police is that you have to recognize that cops are playing a game. And when you're playing a game, the game is arrest a person, make the charge stick.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a game because there's laws and there's perpetrators and there's violent offenders. There's all these different things that they like to call people and different scenarios. But at the end of the day, if you're an officer, you have a mandate. Your mandate is to arrest people and to make charges stick. So it becomes like a game.
Yeah.
That's why prosecuting attorneys, they hide evidence that they know will exonerate the person.
Yeah.
They lie to defense attorneys. They withhold information. They do this on purpose because they want to win that game. Because if they can win that game and get more convictions, their career will escalate. So we've set it up in this way where you're incentivizing people to cheat, to steal, to become a criminal in support of law enforcement.
Man, I you couldn't have said it better. You know what I mean? That's the reward. That's your reward. You have to do these things to be rewarded. It's
crazy. It's crazy.
It's
crazy that we accept that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you can withhold information that will exonerate a defendant, and you don't get tried with a crime.
Yeah.
They don't. They're scot free. They skate. Everyone just sweeps it under the rug.
Yeah.
It's all nothing.
And that's the pain that we feel, in our communities.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to know why, people act and do certain things. We become victims of this type of hate.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's not that one person that's doing that time. It's the whole family.
Right.
his kids and
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
And it become a thing that we feel so deeply, you know what I mean, where it really affects us in a way, man, where a lot of people get stuck and they
Yes.
start expressing it through hate.
Yes.
You know,
Stuck is the
yeah.
best term.
Yeah.
And it exacerbates and encourages this feeling of helplessness
Yeah.
that doesn't give you an option to get out. And even if it's not the grand plan, if it's not like, I'd like to look at conspiracy theories or any conspiracy on a step-by-step basis, and I think a lot of it is just the system itself, the way it's set up.
Yeah.
And I don't think these cops are involved in this grand conspiracy, but in a way they are, because what they're doing, whether they know it or not, is encouraging this feeling of helplessness, because they know that these cops aren't looking out for everybody. They're not looking out for you. They want to arrest you. All their job is to get as many people arrested as possible.
Yeah.
And a few cops figure their way through it and maintain a good reputation and good cops, but those, in a lot of cases, are the exception.
Yeah. And what I witnessed, and I can't call them good, but what I witnessed is, like, I believe there's some good cops out there, but
As do I.
yeah, but those that witness, and I witnessed so many of them turn their head, you know, when they see
Yes.
corruption
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
To me, they are corrupt, just as corrupt as the one that's doing it, and
Yeah.
a lot of them do that.
A lot of them do that. It's
Yeah.
the culture.
Yeah.
That's the code of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the culture of law enforcement. It's deeply, deeply unfortunate. You know, when you see the Floyd Mayweather or the George Floyd death, when that cop is leaning on his neck
Yeah.
and the other cops are just standing around,
Right.
that's the code of silence.
Oh yeah.
They're allowing it to happen. They know that dude's been on that guy's neck for 8 fucking minutes, and they're
yeah.
just standing there. They
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But they're all in it together. And a lot of times they feel like they have to stand together because the department doesn't defend them. Internal Affairs is always looking to bring them down too.
Yeah.
And their job is to go out and get people. And they get together and they tell themselves the only people you can trust are other cops, and we got to stick together, and these are the rules. And you're a young cop. If you get involved in that, you realize early on, like, your ideas of like
Oh, yeah.
law enforcement being this beautiful thing that's out there to protect communities, and like, no,
Yeah.
it's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game. The game is you got to arrest people.
Yeah.
You got to lie about how fast people were going. You got to plant drugs in someone's car.
It's true. It's true. And they've been playing that game for so long.
Forever.
They just happened to catch, George Floyd on camera because of social media, and they catching so many things. But
Because of a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
One
yeah,
17-year-old girl who was on the scene, who happened to be filming it with her phone.
Yeah. But for example, like this ex-DEA agent Schumacher, 8 people that has been killed by his hands. When we interviewed his lieutenant who had retired, he said he always questioned all of those murders that this guy had done because he would lie. His story would change. I had investigated that actually interviewed this guy. So I brought to the table concrete evidence such as that, and when I was there talking to the head guys who wanted to know why I was accusing the DEA agent as being a hitman, I'm like, well, give me a better name for him, because it was totally unnatural for any officer to use his gun that many times, and it was no problem.
So they just accepted that it was a part of the job.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get this guy off you?
Well, eventually what happened was, after I came back from Washington, D.C., somebody was wise enough to, well, what they done was they went and searched his desk and his locker, him and Chad Scott, and they found evidence that I had told them about, such as a rap-a-lot piece, the jewelry, and different things
That
like
they
that.
were planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had took this and kept it. So they put them on desk job. They reprimanded them and put them on a desk job. And they decided that they didn't want to see he and I run into one another on the streets after I had, documented that I was in fear of my life. So that would have looked worse for them than anything. So they moved him. Matter of fact, he's out here somewhere, the owner of a gun store now,
Ah!
retired.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
So,
That's crazy.
but his other guy, his other sidekick, is on his way to prison. He was found guilty of doing the same stuff. He never stopped. He was a younger guy. So they moved him to Louisiana. And he just picked up the ball and started doing everything he was doing in Houston and in Texas, in Louisiana, and they caught up with him.
There's a guy named Michael Dowd who's been on my podcast before. He is one of the people that was featured in a documentary about a corrupt police precinct called the 7-5 in New York City. It's an amazing documentary. And he came in and talked to me about it on the podcast, but literally his first day on the job, he watched cops murder somebody. And they were told, he was told, shut your fucking mouth. Like, this is what we do. Like, you're a cop now. Like, keep your fucking mouth shut. And he became a guy who was robbing drug dealers, selling drugs, protecting drug dealers, setting up hits. I mean, it's madness.
Well, that's what these guys was doing. The same thing.
It happens.
Different toilet.
Yeah, it happens. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy that those are the people that we think of as the good guys.
Yeah.
And so a guy like you, who legitimately is trying to escape that life, you get set up with Al Gore.
Yeah.
The guy who's running for president.
Right.
You get DEA hitmen coming after you, trying to set you up. Like, it's amazing that you maintain your calm through all this. That you've gotten through it without being insanely paranoid.
Yeah. And I may be paranoid to a certain extent.
You might be right. It might not be paranoia. You might just be aware.
It definitely was a situation that I feel scarred me to a certain extent. There's no doubt about it. Definitely, I'm in a more peaceful spot today. But in the midst of that journey and that war, it's like every day you feel like in your mind you're legal and you're doing what's right. You're a law-abiding citizen, but the reality was you damn if you do it this way. You damn if you know what I mean. I couldn't figure it out, but I still chose to stay on the side of right. You know what I mean. I refuse to allow them to set me up or get me in darkness. And I understood that darkness, if I campaign in darkness, I'm going to get elected in darkness. So,
Well, it's very admirable. It really is. Because there's this, when you have this system that is, they're unsupportive of people escaping the life. They want to keep you connected in some way, shape, or form to crime. And they never want to think, well, here's this inspirational person that not only has escaped, but maybe will offer a beacon of light to other young dudes who are in that life, who want to escape. A man who has become extremely successful. Look what he does. Look what he does. He reads, he hustles, he's disciplined, and you can do this too. And he has escaped the life.
Yeah.
Instead of that,
yeah,
they look at you like a hoop they're trying to throw a ball through. They're just trying to score.
Yeah. It was I got respect from a whole different generation of police officers. Now, the younger police officers today, like now, I would ride through the hood and I would get stopped and get harassed. Now they'll stop me and want an autograph. Because, you asked me how this shift took place, I would only say, I guess I survived the storm. You know what I mean? And they able to see that I was able to, inspire generations to come. I really feel that higher powers recognize thinkers, people that know how to think. those that came before me, Martin Luther King, all the people they destroyed because they saw a movement taking place that they didn't like. I know I had a movement taking place, and there's evidence that I had that movement taking place today, because the South are who they are because of the foundation I laid. And, I had artists, CEOs like Cash Money, like Master P, Tony Draper, Swisher House, Jay-Z, all of them watching my movement at ground zero, which inspired them to, to come to fruition with their movements. So I think these guys saw that being bred in them. They know when the people in power know when they see the truth at work. And a lot of times they assign people to destroy that before it come to fruition. And I think that was their assignment where I was concerned.
It is interesting, though, that over the test of time, your true character has emerged and that people understand who you actually are, and that the young cops, they actually like you now.
Yeah.
It's a total role reversal.
Yeah, that was surprising to me, where, because I was used to being racially profiled all the time because, I ride clean. I like nice cars, and to be stopped like all the time without doing anything was, I had to get used to that. You know what I mean? I had to okay, this is like going to be a lifestyle. Like I brush my teeth every day. You know what I mean? This is just going to happen. Even though, I took a stand and I always voiced it on the hip hop records. That was one of my relief podiums where, during the Ghetto Boys, I would get on the intros and put the spotlight on all the things they was doing to us, because I knew it was happening all around the world and ghettos all around the world. And the people loved me for, expressing the pain that we all was feeling and what they were doing to all of us where the laws was being broken. And to this day, they love me for that.
Well, I think your message is very important. I think your message of discipline and of character and of how you've succeeded by following those principles it's so important for people. And I think it's one of the most important things for someone who's stuck in poverty, wanting to figure out a way to be a person like you, to see that you've laid out these ground rules that you follow, to see that you've laid out these steps that you've taken, and to see that you've done it all in a book.
Yeah.
And encourage people to not just read this book, but read the books that inspired you to get to the position that you're at.
Yeah.
It's so valuable. It's the best way to give back. I mean, you can give back in a lot of ways, and they're all great. But one of the best ways to give back is with honesty and with your just, you've learned some things, and people can learn those things through you.
Yeah.
It's so valuable.
Right. And that's my goal. That's my goal to leave that with them. I know when when I cross over in heaven, this book will still be here.
Yes.
The blueprint, the blueprint of, my business life and my personal life on how I was able to, conquer, the odds and different things that were set up against me.
Did you do an audiobook?
Yes.
I love audiobooks.
Yeah,
man.
me too. That's how I do it right now.
It's my favorite way because I'm in traffic, I'm driving around, and I can get those books in.
Man, I love audio.
It's a big deal for me, man. In the sauna, at the gym, audiobooks it just makes regular time educational. You can get something in.
Yeah, and I'm reading it, so I'm not a speed reader.
Beautiful.
Just like I'm speaking.
Beautiful. I love when people read their own books. I hate when someone else reads it.
Yeah.
If you had some dorky actor read your book, like Respect.
Imagine
it was the fall of 1988, and I'm sitting the fuck out of here. Right?
Imagine that.
Oh, I've imagined. I've read it. I've seen it, rather. Listened to it. It's terrible. It's terrible.
My fans would be disappointed.
Oh,
in me.
devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would rather hear me struggle with the reading than.
No, well, you have such a distinctive voice too. It's like I think it's very important that people, especially when it's an autobiography, read your own books.
Mm-hmm.
The only person who should never read his own books is Stephen King. Stephen King is a great writer, but is terrible at reading his books.
Right.
But those are fiction. You need an actor to read those fiction books.
Right.
It's a different jam. It's a
Yeah.
different thing. One of your things that I know that you are very passionate about is raising up the South.
Right.
That means a lot to you. Why is that?
Because in the beginning, I had to like blaze a trail. It was a struggle. New Yorkers was dominating our airways. They was dominating all the DJ spots, the clubs. They was relentless with their hustle. I give them credit. You know what I mean? And they was like spreading their troops everywhere. You know what I mean? So with me having to like make them believers and change that situation, I'm a little more passionate about the journey than most, because I understood how we got booed and when we went to New York, and they just didn't. They felt like we was too country. They wouldn't play our records. I go to them and plead with them. Do this, do that, and it came to a situation where I stopped asking. You know what I mean? I stopped asking, and I had to figure out a way to run them out of my city. Yeah, just point blank. Yeah, and that's what brought about change in Houston is, because my thing was give us a chance. If the people don't like us, then that's acceptable, but not giving us a chance and playing New York music and acting like as if we not important or, my people not special. We can't have that.
Well, the Ghetto Boys sound was so aggressive and so good, and it put Fifth Ward on the map. I mean, people started talking about Fifth Ward after the Ghetto Boys came out. Yeah. And when, like, We Can't Be Stopped and Do It Like a G.O., like, there were songs that were undeniable.
Yeah.
And it just, like, everybody was like, I don't give a fuck what you say. That's a good goddamn record.
Right.
It was like, It just was undeniable.
Yeah.
Being undeniable is at the end of the day, and I think that's also what's happened with you, with the young cops that appreciate and respect you now. It's like, it's undeniable. It's just over time.
Yeah.
Your true nature gets exposed. You can get slandered and attacked, and they go after you and try to arrest you and all these different things, but you survived all that.
Right.
And over time, your true nature is exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, we wrote this song, the Ghetto Boys song called We Can't Be Stopped.
Yeah.
And I think we named the album We Can't Be Stopped.
Yeah.
And that's because we was going through that struggle. You know what I mean? With all the enemies trying to stop us. They was doing all kinds of things to try and stop us. And, we were in a mind frame and like-minded. Sometimes I think I made their heart skip a beat with some of the decisions I made. But at the end of the day, when they saw fruit bear for taking that stand, then they became more of a believer where that was concerned.
Every
also.
army needs a great general.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes those decisions have to be made.
True.
Well, it all worked out, clearly. I mean, it really did. When you look back on your legacy, I mean, obviously you look to the future, and you continue to move forward. But as you look back, you've got to be happy with what you've done, particularly with the rap industry.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm very proud of where the South stand today. One of my favorite quotes a lot of times, and you kind of get under the skin of my East Coast and West Coast homies, but I tell them the East Coast a piece of bread, the West Coast a piece of bread, and down South we the meat. Y'all can't have a sandwich without us. Yeah.
It's so funny to me how people just get so caught up in East Coast and West Coast, because it really only happened in rap. It never happened with rock and roll.
Right.
It never happened with sports. I mean, it did a little bit with sports in some teams, but with the big thing with rap music was always East Coast versus West Coast until you guys came around.
Right. Yeah. I'm like really familiar with that beef. I wrote about it in my book of how me and Puffy, had a meeting and they wanted me to mediate a meeting where him and Suge was concerned. You know, that was after Tupac and all of these people, you know, had got killed, and it was something that I wanted to do, but I couldn't really get, you know, between it because, you know, things just didn't add up properly, and I don't believe in stepping in between something when I don't have all the information. Yeah.
That's got to be extremely difficult, right? You were in the middle of like a legitimate war where two of the all-time greats
Yeah.
were murdered.
Yeah, I was asked to be in the middle of it, and after Tupac was murdered, one of the things I done was I heard Puffy and Biggie was in L.A. shooting a video, so I was on my tour bus and I turned it all the way around. I think I was close to Phoenix, and I turned it around just to go and have a conversation with Biggie and Puffy to alert them that they were in a place that I didn't feel that they should have been in. And, you know, I went there and had a conversation with both of them just to kind of put them on notice that, you know, this ain't the place to be right now.
And that was before Biggie was killed?
Yeah.
How long before it was?
I think a few weeks. Before. And, you know, sometimes, and I know Puffy meant well, and I know Biggie mean well, sometimes a lot of individuals are what I call surface deep where the streets are concerned, which simply mean you understand them to a certain depth, you know what I mean? But I understood that wasn't definitely L.A. That wasn't a good place to be because my ears was to the street, and, you know, I just wanted to echo it. It was on my spirit to let them know, and I did. And unfortunately, you know, it didn't save him, but everybody can learn from those mistakes moving forward.
Yeah, it was a devastating loss. Both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, what they left behind, you know, to this day.
Yeah.
If you got a Mount Rushmore of hip-hop, those two dudes are on there.
Right.
There's no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. Two brilliant guys.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
There's a video of Biggie on the street that I watch all the time when he was 17 years old. A piece of paper in his hand with his lyrics.
Yeah.
Rapping his ass off.
Oh, yeah.
At 17 years old.
Yeah.
It's incredible. When you watch the video, you're like, what talent.
Yeah.
What power that
Yeah.
dude had.
Yeah.
Just vocal power.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and Tupac was the same way.
Same
I mean,
way.
them guys, man, you know, two geniuses,
Yeah.
you know, that never really fully came to fruition.
That's the saddest thing about true genius. If you look at all the people, whether it's Hendrix or Jim Morrison or Tupac or Biggie, they all died young, man.
Yeah.
Janis Joplin. We still to this day can go back and look at their stuff, but they all died young.
It's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's a weird world we live in, my friend.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? But I think that the world gets less weird when someone like you is made through all the hoops and ladders and gotten to a point where you can kind of let people know what you've been through.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I think it's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely is. I'm what one would call a testimony.
Yeah.
And, you know, I try to be a voice of inspiration and hope for my beginning with my community. You know what I mean? I'm a person that, you know, stay in contact with where my community is concerned. You know, that's why I built the recreation center, the boxing gym, a school, you know, because I never wanted to be one of those people that disown where I was from. And that's what law enforcement was trying to get me to do. You know, I would have conversations with them guys when they would stop me and pull me over. Why don't you just leave? You made it. Why do you come? You know what I mean? In other words, go away. You know, and they had a problem with me uplifting. You know, it's an interesting thing when they would see a guy that was on the corner selling drugs transition to hip hop, whether it was from rapping or working through hip hop, and now that guy is driving a Mercedes. Now he driving something totally different, and that would anger a lot of the officers who wasn't getting paid that kind of money. So that he become like a big target from what he done in the past.
Yeah.
They never let that go.
Yeah, that's that envy of being a police officer that's getting paid a shitty salary.
Yeah.
Watching some dude who used to break the law,
Yeah.
and now he's balling out of control.
It's a cold thing, man.
It's a cold thing.
And
Wow.
they hate that, man.
You
They
gotta
like,
recognize the limitations of your profession.
yeah, you can't. They be like, you can't change. You're doing the same thing. There's no way you can change. There's no way I'm going to allow you to change if I can help it.
That's an anti-human sentiment.
Yeah.
That a person can't change. That's one of the worst things you could say to a person, because all of us are inspired by people who do change.
Yeah. And what's even worse is locking a man up so long where you don't give him an opportunity to change, because it's a lot of brothers that evolve behind walls. You know what I mean? And it's way less years than they have to serve. They actually get it and snap into, okay, I got it now. I got the message. I got the lesson.
Yeah.
And you know, the way the system is built is really unforgiving. You know, and you know, like the brother, you know, our brother Larry Hoover right now, for example. You know, he's a brother that I know has changed inside, but whether they want to give him the opportunity to, you know, be free and execute, you know, the wisdom and the change that has taken place in him and a lot of other political prisoners. You know, I think the system is crazy that it's so unforgiving.
It's not just unforgiving. It's thoughtless. There's no thought put into rehabilitating. There's the amount of people that get actually rehabilitated in prison is minuscule, and it's usually through self-determination. Like they decide that they're going to rehabilitate themselves. The comprehensive program of changing a person, educating them as to what happened to them and how they can benefit society if they can get through this,
Right.
and how they can teach other people that have also fallen in the same pitfalls. Hey, you can get through this too. Like you don't have to be who you are right now.
Yeah.
Who you are right now is who you are because of circumstance and because of life and bad luck and bad decisions, but that doesn't mean that's who you are forever.
Yeah.
And there's no rehabilitation. The real effort to rehabilitate people is non-existent. There's some people that get rehabilitated through prison, whether it's through the negative reinforcement of they never want to be locked up in a cage again, or through other people that they meet inside the jail, or through books they read inside the jail. But there's no real comprehensive effort to change people and help people and educate people. The thought of being like lost and hopeless. Then the idea that a person can't change, that's the most non-human idea ever. Because the best people all change. When you're young, you hopefully the foolish shit that you do when you're 10, you're not going to do when you're 20. The dumb shit you do when you're 20, you're not going to do when you're 30. You're going to learn from every step of the way. Everyone changes.
Oh yeah, the driving force behind that is racism. You know what I mean? It was the same with the slaves. You know, they never wanted to teach them. They never wanted to see them evolve. They only wanted them to be a slave. And you know, to me, that's the mechanism of the system right now, where, you know, the inmates, a lot of them are concerned. Of course, you know, there are some that, you know, may deserve different things, but this thing where drugs is concerned, this whole nonviolent situation that they got going on is racist as it get.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Imagine a university where no one graduated any smarter.
Wow. It wouldn't exist. They wouldn't allow it to happen.
It wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a thought in your head that a prison system where almost no one graduates
Now, that's a good
leaves rehabilitated.
That's a hell of an analogy you just gave. You know what I mean? A university where no one evolved or got smarter.
You would say, okay, whoever set this shit up, you fucked up. This is terrible.
Yeah.
This is poorly designed, terribly executed. And you would look at the motivations. Like, are you guys making money off of this?
Yeah.
And no one is getting. Are you really protecting society by making people better criminals, locking them up for 10 years, then releasing them again? Are you really?
Yeah.
I don't think you are. I think you failed.
Yeah.
The whole system is a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. True statement.
Yeah.
And where the colleges are concerned, they never would allow that because that's their loved ones.
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's the difference, right?
Yeah, that is the difference, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird because like criminal justice reform just gets sort of like cursory mention by politicians.
It's a cold game they got going on, man, and that's what one of the reasons I call myself a Republican. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to just jump on a bandwagon when I see these different mixed signals going on where, my people are concerned, you know, and I be looking for one that will stand up and not twist when he walk, you know what I mean? Stand up and be a real man and, authentic with the movement. And it's hard to see them people in this game that I watch. It's just, it's hard. There's always, some things going on that's under the radar.
There's so many influences. By the time these people get into any position of power, they're so compromised that they got to kind of follow the steps that are laid out for them. No one really ever says, hey, look at this. Let's look at this and let's lay it out, because this is a terrible, terrible place. This is a terrible scenario we have with criminal justice. It's terrible. Let's look at how many people that are wrongfully convicted. How many people that are executed were innocent. Let's look at how many people that have been railroaded by corrupt prosecuting attorneys. Look at how many people who've been just stuck in jail for no fault of their own. It's crazy.
No, it's a lot of them. It's
crazy that a guy like you who gets through, but it's beautiful that now you're celebrated. But it's but it makes sense. I mean, in their little game of trying to arrest people, they're like, this dude's still going to the hood, even though now he's wealthy and successful. Why is he still doing that? He's setting up these community centers and boxing gyms. The fuck out of here. He's trying to make some money. He's doing something. He's laundering money.
Yeah.
And they have this cynical perspective. Instead of having the perspective like, that guy, we should have him talk to other kids.
Yeah.
We should let everybody know, like, this is possible.
Right.
Everybody who is down on their luck, who's not doing well, is in a bad situation, you can look to the people that escaped and then profited and thrived and then became incredibly successful. And that should be your motivation. That should be your blueprint.
No, it is. And their blueprint a lot of the times is just like you say, let's figure out how to destroy him.
Yeah.
Let's let go every 3-letter word, IRS, DEA, FBI, PH,
CIA.
All of them. Let's let them a loose on him to see if they can put something together to destroy him.
Especially when you become real profitable.
Yeah. Especially
when you're rolling around in beautiful cars, living in a beautiful house. And why the owl? You have this beautiful owl chain. Why owls?
This is Drake. Symbol. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is Drake. My son discovered Drake. So
really?
Yeah, my son Jazz Prince.
Wow.
We brought Drake to the United States, and that's how he got started.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why is Drake into owls?
Well, I think owls is a powerful symbol. You know what I mean? It's a lot of strength where owls are concerned.
Yeah.
I like eagles.
I like eagles too.
But these owls are some
owls are
strong,
pretty badass,
yeah,
and they fuck people up at night. They fuck up birds at night. One of my favorite videos was these hawks sitting in a nest at night, and some owl swoops in out of the darkness and snatches one of them.
They're cold-blooded at night.
Yeah, we have this idea about them that they're like these wise creatures that are like, thoughtfully looking over the land. No, they're out there fucking up rabbits and killing everything they can. Owls are vicious, man.
They are
Vicious
they are.
predators.
Yeah, and Drake, this is his brand. You know, maybe I can get him to explain to you what's really behind
Bring
this
him
owl
in.
symbol.
Bring him in. I'd
For
love
sure.
to. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah.
Listen, brother, I appreciate you very much, man, and I want everybody to know that the Art and Science of Respect. It's out right now. You can get it. You can get it in book form. You can get it in audio form. Loyalty, your wine, this Cabernet is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Enjoyed it.
And I can't wait to try your champagne and your Merlot. And thanks for coming in here, man.
Hey, appreciate
Thank you.
it, bro.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.